sleep yesterday and you're ready for this wonderful day. Let me look at you. I can see lots of smiling, energetic faces all over the room, and I'm so happy to see all of you here in this ELT conference. Dear guests from near and far, it gives me a great pleasure to give you a very warm welcome on behalf of my school, Gaziantep Kolej Foundation Private Schools. And we're very grateful to those of you who've accepted our invitation and came here to be in this conference. Just a quick information about myself. My name is Tuğçe, and I'm an English teacher here, and I'm teaching English to a great bunch of kids at this high school. Today marks our 13th ELT conference, and we're very proud to be able to host it at Tuğçe Hotel with all of you. And now, I'd like to invite our primary school principal, Mr. Mustafa Şener, to the stage to deliver his opening speech.
Sayın misafirlerimiz, Gaziantep Kolej Vakfı Özel Okulları adına bu yıl 13. düzenlenen ELT Konferansımızda siz değerli konuklarımızın aramızda görmekten onur ve mutluluk duymaktayız. Siz değerli konuşmacıları, katılımcıları ve bu konferansı gerçekleştirmemizde bizi destekleyen yayın evlerini ağırlamaktan şeref duyuyoruz. Gaziantep Kolej Vakfı Özel Okulları genç, dinamik, azimli bir çalışma ekibiyle eğitim dünyasına yön verecek projeler üzerinde araştırma ve çalışmalar yapmaktadır. Önümüzdeki yıllarda akademik başarıların yanı sıra öğrencilerimizin sanat, spor ve yabancı dil alanında daha kaliteli bir eğitim almalarını hedeflemekteyiz. Gaziantep Kolej Vakfı Özel Okulları'nın misyonlarından bir tanesi İngilizceyi ana dili gibi akıcı konuşabilen öğrenciler yetiştirmektir. İnanıyoruz ki öğrencilerimizin başarısı alanında donanımlı öğretmenler ve idareciler tarafından desteklenmektedir. Bu sebeple kadromuzun gelişmesine katkı sağlayan bu etkinliklere çok önem veriyoruz. Bu konferansın gerçekleşmesinde emeği geçen yabancı diller direktörümüz Sayın Kristina Gültekin'e ve tüm öğretmenlerimize, tüm katılımcılarımıza çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Konuşmama çok kısaca bir İngilizce ifade son vermek istiyorum. I'm sure that this conference will be very beneficial for all the participants. Thank you for your contributing, and thanks for all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Şener, for your encouraging speech. And now we will watch a short video about who we are as GKV schools. Without further delay, I would especially like to invite one of the organizers of the event, Mrs. Kristina Gültekin. Actually, this is a kind of risky moment for me because I know that she will be angry with me after hearing what I'm about to say. But let me tell you that she is the spark beneath the fire, and her efforts all over these months resulted in this unique ELT experience. And that's why let's welcome our Foreign Languages Department Director, Mrs. Kristina Gültekin, to the stage to deliver her speech.
Good morning, everyone. I feel a little bit overwhelmed. Thank you, Tuğçe. Thank you. So it's such a pleasure to see this big crowd today on a Saturday morning when I know that you are very busy, you have your weekend courses, you want to take your dog for a walk, I don't know, you may found anything else to do besides coming over here. So I thank you, all of you, for finding the time to be here with us today. Thank you. Well, the video that you've just seen, it talked about our past, present and the future. A new campus is being built at the moment, so we are really, really excited about it. And probably next year we will hold our conference over there, you never know. Now let me go to my formal speech. I hope I won't bore you to death though. So, dear distinguished administrators, guests, colleagues, senior students, I feel honored to welcome all of you to Gaziantep Foundation College 13th ELT Conference. It's a tradition already to organize such events yearly in order to help the teaching local community to develop. This year, we have colleagues from all the region, including academics, K-12 teachers, ELT senior students, and as I told you before, I really appreciate those teachers coming from other cities who found again the time on a Saturday to attend this event. Last year, if you remember, we tackled the topic of changing teachers' mindsets. You know, that's difficult. It's very, very difficult to change teachers' mindsets, but I believe that we are now even richer than we were last year. I'm sure you will find some refreshing ideas today with the plenaries provided by Nik, who's here, Andy, and then the workshops presented by Laura, Chris, and Sam in the afternoon. This year we are happy to present a slightly different format of our conference. That is, besides these wonderful plenaries and workshops, we will have poster presentations. If you looked around, you might have seen them already. They are posters on action research, exploratory research, so we are really, really excited to hear the presenters' ideas and the results they have found. Besides this, our IB students, International Baccalaureate students, have a poster presentation as well. I do advise you to visit it and have a look at it. I won't keep you long, as I'm sure you are impatiently waiting for the first plenary. You haven't come here for me, come on. You've come for these great guys over here. So again, thank you, and yeah, Nik, you've got the floor.
Bear with me for just 1 minute. Can you hear me still? Hello? Okay. I have to remember that I need these sometimes nowadays. Old age is a terrible thing. Set the timer. Good morning. I'm going to start by asking you to trust me. This is quite a brave thing to do, seeing as we've never met before and you don't know very much about me. But I'm going to ask you to trust me. And I'm going to ask you to please close your eyes. Can you all close your eyes? And try to imagine yourself in your classroom. Try to close your eyes and imagine yourself in your classroom. While you're in your classroom, I'd like you to think about 3 things. Think about the way you use technology with your students. think about the things that you feel that you do well when you use technology with your students. Okay? And think about the things that annoy you or you find difficult when you use technology with your students. Okay, could you open your eyes now, please? I'm still here. I haven't disappeared or gone away. Okay, now, can you turn to the person next to you and tell them about the things that you feel you do well and the things that annoy you? See if there's similar things to the person next to you. Just tell the person next to you. Okay, can I stop? Okay, so for all of you, there are things that you do well, yeah? You feel you do well? I'm sure there are. And there are things that annoy you about technology or frustrate you? I think there probably are, because I know there are for me. So that's now. I'm going to introduce you to someone now. This is Isabella. This is my daughter, my youngest daughter, Isabella. And she's 3 years old. How many of you are parents? Most of you look too young to be parents. Okay, yeah. And probably like you, I worry about my daughter's future. Probably once you're a parent, that's probably all you ever do most of the time, is worry about your children's future. When my daughter finishes university at 21, it will be the year 2036. She will be joining the workforce and becoming a working member of society in 2036. And it worries me to think about the skills that she will need to become part of that workforce and how she's going to get those skills. How will her school and her teachers provide her with the skills that she needs? So now I'd like you to close your eyes again and try to imagine your classroom and you teaching in it in the year 2036. Try to imagine what it will be like. Just close your eyes for a moment and see if you can imagine that. Okay, open your eyes. So that one's a bit harder to do, isn't it, than the first one? You know, we know quite a lot about now and the things that annoy us and the things that we're good at. But how do we look towards that future of what our children need by the time they leave school? Because we're the ones who have to think about it and provide for that. So my question is, if A is now and B is 2036, how do we get there? How do we understand what we need to do to get there? I'm going to give you a few tools and maybe a framework to try and help with that and to get through that process and try to help to reflect on what you do now and how you can change that. And first we're going to look at a model called SAMA, which is a model to support the way you integrate technology into your teaching. The model looks like this. And in a way it's a kind of progressive ladder. It starts from substitution to augmentation to modification to redefinition. And it should take us from the point where we use technology to enhance what we do to really kind of transforming what we do in the future. I'll explain the model and give you some examples. If we start at the bottom, at substitution, this is an explanation of what technology as a means of substitution does. If you're worried about taking notes, you can download the presentation at the end, so don't worry, you don't have to write anything down. You can download the presentation with all the links and all the images. Okay, so the substitution level, technology is used to directly substitute something that we do in the classroom. And I'll give you an example of that, a simple example. We have a text that's in a course book. We're doing a reading activity. And instead of using the text from the course book, we take a text from the internet. Okay? It's a simple substitution. There's no real transformation in the way students work with the text. They're reading on a screen maybe, or a printout from a screen, as opposed from a course book. How many of you have done something like that? Probably. Yeah, most of us have at some point. So that's substitution. This is augmentation. So this next level up, technology is used as a tool to substitute and enable some kind of improvement in the way the task is carried out. And if we take our example again, so we start with our course book, we substitute a web page or a website instead, and maybe we use something like an online dictionary to check words from that text. And at this end, maybe we use something like this, which is a tool called Scribble, which enables us to mark up and comment on online digital text. So I'll show you an example of that, I hope. So here's my online text. If I wait long enough. And here's my toolbar. So I can start to work with that text there and use this toolbar to kind of highlight things and to make notes. So I can start to make notes and interact with the digital text. I can share these notes with my teacher or maybe another student. So now I'm starting to augment the way my students work with text. So we've gone through this model from taking something from the course book, using something online, checking vocabulary online, and then marking up that text online, and maybe saving it in a library online. So that's an augmentation level. The next level up is modification. So now we're starting to redesign tasks in a way that leads to a more significant improvement. And that starts to look like this. It's getting a lot more complicated, isn't it? we're still starting with our text in the course book, substituting it with something online, augmenting it with a couple of digital tools, but then we take it a bit further and we modify it. We get students maybe to write a blog post about it. So that they take what they've read, they write a blog post about it, they interact on that blog post, and maybe they go online into a digital classroom and they can start to interact online about it. There's a simple to use free digital classroom here. Maybe they can get a speaker in from a different country or another class from a different school, and they can discuss that together. So now we're starting to modify it and taking it away from being basic reading into discussion and interaction around that text, and live interaction, bringing people in from outside the classroom. Are you waiting for the fourth part of the model? The diagram gets more complicated as well. Okay, so redefinition. So the redefinition stage, sorry, I'll take this up. Technology is used for the creations of tasks that were previously impossible. And it goes much further. And there's my diagram. It starts over on the far side. Again, you have your text in the course book. You take it online. You check it online dictionary. You interact with the text and mark it up. And then you start to use Google to do research around the text. Find out more about it. Find some of the background. See if the facts in it are true. You can go to the next step, which is to get students to create a survey around it, share the survey through social media, get different people's opinions, analyze data, turn it maybe into an infographic or something like that that then they can share and present to other people. Or maybe they use a tool like Touchcast and produce a video that's a report about them, about the text that they've read and the research that they've done. So this text starts to take our students much further. So that example looks something like this if we break it down. That's where we start to redefine the kinds of tasks we give our students. And that's the model again. Again, it's that developmental stairway, but we combine with learning language, we're combining learning language with developing digital skills, the kind of digital skills that our students need in the future and that they need for their future employment or work. I'm going to give you a break from listening to my voice, and now, with the person next to you, I gave an example for each of those 4 steps. With the person next to you, see what you can remember from each example. See if you can piece together the examples together. So turn to the person next to you and say to them, what do you remember about that? Just like that, what do you remember about that? Ask the person next to you. Now we're going to have a test. No, we're not going to have a test. So that's a model that potentially we can use to change the way we think about technology and to help us reflect on the way we use technology. You can start thinking about the activities that I do with my students. Where are they on this scale? Where are they on this ladder? What can I do to move them maybe up to the next level? Maybe the top level isn't always appropriate. Maybe actually the best level is the substitution level for the particular task that you're doing at the moment, or for your students at the moment. But it gives us a structure to reflect on and maybe move through. Okay, I mentioned reflection and recap. So I'm going to look at a few tools now that maybe you can use to introduce into this structure. And the first one is something called recap. And it's something that I've used in teacher training courses. And it's a way of setting up reflection tasks for your students. Often students, when they close the book, finish your lesson, they walk out of the classroom and don't think about it again. And we, just like our students, need to think about how we reflect. And this is a website. It's also available as an app version. And you can set up tasks that your students can do. So that when they get home, they have something to reflect on. They reflect and they feed back their reflections to you. And they can do it either as text or as video. This is one of my classes. Each one of these represents one of my students' responses. So I set them a question, or two questions, and ask them to reflect on them. And when I open up the site, I can look at their answers. Okay, and this is what I see. This is one of my students. I can click on it.
I think it is my thoughts when I was a graduate assistant.
So this is one of my students who was in China. I was doing a course in China. And she was reflecting on what she felt made a good teacher and thinking about what a good teacher. So I can get her to record the video a minute or two, and then at home I can watch it, and I can respond by video, or I can do it, type in a message for her. I won't invade her privacy too much. And that's very easy to do. You can just go and create what's called a cue. And you can either add a question, or you can create what's called a journey, where you start with some digital materials and ask them to reflect on those. It's also free to use as well. And here in the back, I have my different classes. So I've got three different classes here, and I can just go and check the ones I want. You're going to become one of my classes. Where it says Sana, I've set up a sequence of questions there for you. And you're not going to do them now, but when you get home, you can have a go at that, see what it's like to be a student, and reflect on what's happened here today. So that's your homework assignment. What you'll need to do when you download the presentation, or you can take a photograph of it now, is look at this page here. There's a link where you go to, and there's a little code, a PIN code. And once you put it in, you'll enter that site, and you'll see the questions that you need to answer and reflect on. So that's something to do on a Saturday evening. What else would you want to do on a Saturday? And you can see how that works. Another tool that I like as a way of redefining learning is something called Toontastic. It's actually a free mobile app that was produced by Google. Actually, to be honest, it wasn't produced by Google. Somebody else produced it. Google liked it and they bought it. But they bought it and gave it away for free. So there are some good things that Google does. And it's a wonderful app that allows kids to create animated movies. And they can do them on their mobile just by pressing on the different characters that they select and then moving them around and speaking. So they can create these kinds of video speaking tasks. I'll show you an example one that one student created.
Until one day we hear a crash and a bang. Oh no, what is that horrifying sound? Well, I don't know, maybe we should go ask Gluma. She knows everything about everything. But you don't want me to get past that, scared dolphin? It will be fine, let's go. Hey! Woohoo! Come on, go. Can we go past, please? Sure. Yay! What is that bang sound, Miss Gluma? Oh no, I'm afraid it is humans. What will we do? I know, guys. Calm down. We will start here and fight the humans. They'll never find Atlantis, I promise. Okay. So this is where the humans live. Yes, and Mr. Krabby will be our, god. And they're not humans, they're pirates, so we better get going, quickly. Okay, let's go! Woo! This is so cool! Wow! Pirates! You stay here, get your mateys, and we will arrest you with our pirate cage.
Yeah, it's hard to compete with that, isn't it? Yeah. But what students do is they have the app either on the computer or on the mobile device. They choose the background, they choose the scenario, they choose the characters, and then they just have to press their finger down and move the characters around and talk, and it records their voice. Then when they're finished, they produce it as a video, which they can either save on their device or share or give to you. So, a marvellous way of getting students talking together and using language creatively. Even if they only have quite low levels of language, that can work quite well. And practicing dialogues. And there are all different kinds of backgrounds. It doesn't have to be Atlantis. It could be there are ones that are an office or a classroom or a racetrack. So, great way to get students using language and speaking more. This is another quite new app that I like, and it's a way of just quickly generating activities around video that you find on YouTube. So watching and viewing and listening activities. So you find a video that you want to use, you paste the URL in, click on Get Started, and then you can start to build interactions around the video for your students to watch. So you can add questions to it at different points in the video. Along the bottom you can see you can build up a list of questions. That when your students watch it, they have those questions and they can interact with the video. You can also add links to images or links to videos and short quizzes. And again, that's free to use, very quick, very simple. You just need to find a video that you want to use for it. The other application that I really like to use, which changes the way students approach writing, is Primary Pad. You can get them all at the end, don't you? Primary Pad enables you to create a piece of digital paper that your students can work with collaboratively. So if you click on Create a Pad, you wait patiently and hope that you grow. And then you click refresh and try again.
That's annoying.
Yeah, that's one of the things that annoy me too. They just don't go away, do they? Let's hope for the best anyway. Yeah, okay. So we come up with this. It's a piece of digital paper. And you can start, your students can start writing it. You can set a writing task, for example. Get them to add their names. And then as each student joins, their name is colour-coded to what they add to the text. And then they can work on the text together on different computers at different times, or even from different places, often the same classroom. And you can watch as they create their text. You can even go back afterwards and actually watch how they created their text. He said, hopefully. Yeah, it's going to be one of those annoying days. Let's see if I can find one that I've done before. Yeah, it's going to be one of those days. Anyway, you have to take my word for it, I'm afraid. Happens to everyone, doesn't it? It's a way of getting students to interact and work on text together, which is something that's quite difficult to do, because usually writing is something that students do alone. So getting them to write collaboratively and work on a text together at the same time is quite a challenging thing to do. But this is a tool that can enable that. Okay, I'm going to stop for a few minutes, give you a rest from listening to me. Okay, and I've shown you 4 or 5 different apps. Think about the one that you've seen that you like the most, and then tell the person next to you which one it is and why you like it. Just tell the person next to you which one do you like most and why. Okay. Can I stop you? I'm not going to ask which one you were thinking about. Just no, actually, I am. How many of you were thinking about Toontastic? Yeah. Recap? Yeah. The timeline one with the videos? Yeah. Okay, well that's good. I thought everybody was good. Toontastic. The most popular one. Okay, so these are a few different apps that we can use to help start to redefine the way students learn now. But what about the future? If this is what's happening now, if we go back to 2036, what's going to be possible then? Who knows? I can't tell you. Well, actually, maybe I can tell you if I live long enough. If you want to try and keep up with what's happening and what's changing, I actually publish a newsletter every 2 weeks where I collect together different tools and different research that I found about learning technology. If you sign up for it, you'll also get this free book with it. And the free book has 70 different apps that you can use to help your students learn. 70, yeah. They're divided by speaking skills, listening skills, grammar skills, and things like that. So if you want to sign up for that, please do. If you're good with these QR codes, I don't know if you use QR codes here, but you can scan the QR code and get the link right now if you want. So, if you sign up for that and follow it every 2 weeks for the next 18 years, we should know what's happening in 2036. This is my other daughter. I have two. Isabella and Molly. My older daughter now is at university. My older daughter's grown up in the digital age, theoretically, but she didn't grow up in a school that was part of the digital age. She went to a school actually where using a phone or using an iPad in the classroom was actually banned. Her school had IT lessons, and they had a wonderful IT lab with Mac computers in. And when she went in there with her teacher taught them how to touch type. And I think now that she's in university, she's very good at using technology for social reasons. She's very good with social media, but she isn't very good at using it to learn. And I think the responsibility for this lies with her teachers. And I think for her, this was really a missed opportunity. There was a huge opportunity there to digitise her education and prepare her for a job in the 21st century. And now she's having to catch up. I really hope that doesn't happen with my younger daughter and that she isn't in that same position. Really? Yes, she's got my hair, actually. I haven't got it anymore, but she has it. Actually, this one took my hair. She used to sit on my shoulders and hang on to it, and that's why. But this one's growing it back. But yeah, I think what happens with my younger daughter and what happens in her education depends on people like you and other people of her generation. There are a whole generation of young kids, my daughter's age, 3 years old. Already she uses an iPad and an iPhone very easily. When I give her a book, she presses on bits of it and tries to drag and drop them onto different parts. And she doesn't really understand why it's not working. Why have I not given her the one that doesn't work? She loves books, but she expects more from them these days. And I hope that when she gets into school, she expects more from her teachers, and that her teachers are able to deliver that. And I hope you will be those teachers for the generations of students here. That's about all I've got to say, really. That's a bit about me. That's your reflection task for you to go home and do. Make sure you've got that. And if you want the presentation with all the links, this is a QR code, or there's a code to download it there if you want to pass it on. Okay. So I've brushed through that, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay. Or maybe you should just put them into the reflection task. Okay, thank you very much. And by all means, have coffee now, I think. It's coffee. We have that. Oh, sorry.
We were so excited to say Mr. Peachey. That's why we announced his name early. But let me give you a brief bio information about him, and then we may have a question.
Nik Peachey is a freelance trainer, materials writer, blogger, and consultant specializing in digital publishing and the development of digital resources for teachers. He's been involved in English language teaching since 1992 and has worked all over the world as a teacher trainer and project manager. In 2016, after winning a second British Council ELT Award for innovations in teacher resources, he co-founded PeacheyPublications.com. He is now based in the UK, where he is the editor of the Educational Technology, an ELT newsletter, and blogs for Cambridge Words of Better Learning. He is still a regular international conference speaker and has recently co-edited a second book on creativity with Alan Malley. So now, I'd like to invite our school's Vice General Manager, Mr. İsmet Tiryaki, to the stage to present a small gift for Nik. Maybe he may remind us, actually. Yeah. So let's have a coffee break, which is on the ground floor. Looking forward to seeing all these smiling faces here again after 15 minutes. And then we will welcome our second plenary speaker, Mr. Andy Cole. Okay, welcome back everyone. Moving to our second plenary, we have Mr. Andy Cole. And I am shaking a bit for the second time. Today, we're with the ELT groups. It makes me so excited. And let me give a brief bio information about Andy. So starting out as a graduate of German and English linguistics and an English language teacher, Andy has been in ELT publishing and training for almost 30 years, working in over 40 countries. And he's passionate about creating ELT materials and motivating teaching professionals. Andy is known for enthusiastic and practical talks, encouraging teachers to try new ideas and connecting language learning with the real world. Andy grew up near Liverpool, England, and now lives in Glasgow with his family, dog, and guitar. This is my dream life.
Is it?
It's fantastic.
You got my dream, you got my life.
And he loves travel, film, and playing music. And let's give information about presentation a bit. Okay. Learning from visual input lies at the heart of language learning. After all, it is how we get to know the world around us from the moment we're born. Today, we're constantly bombarded with images around us and online, even dominating our personal interactions on social media. It makes sense, therefore, to keep using images in new ways to our teaching advantage and to harness our learners' innate ability to react to and learn from visual input. Since it was never easier to find rich sources of images on the internet, this practical talk looks at where to find them, evaluating their potential and ways to use them in class and at home for grammar, vocabulary, and skills work with all ages and levels. Are you ready to explore the power of images? So let's listen to Andy.
Wow.
Please give a big applause for Andy.
Thank you. Wow. Dear, that's a good lesson to learn, is it? When they ask you to write a short summary of what you're going to talk about, just keep it short. Keep it short. But, because basically I think you've just read out the whole presentation. So any questions? No? Well, it's been lovely to meet you, and yeah, so hello, how are you? You well? You had a coffee? Yeah. Cigarette? Vape? Did you have a, who vapes? I mean, 2036, Nick, I mean, 2018, somebody once, last year, I was standing outside a cafe or something, and I was just taking some fresh air, and the person next to me said, "Do you mind if I vape?" Do you mind if I vape? And that's, you know, I guess that happens a lot. What do you mind if I smoke? That's so last century. Where do you see that in a course book? One of the things I feel very strongly about is keeping real things in the classroom. And I thought a lot about this talk. I'm sure you're relieved to hear. Thought a lot about it. And one of the difficulties of talking about images is, on the one hand, everybody knows it's a good idea to use pictures and images, and you already have your own ideas, okay? You all use images and pictures in some ways, yes? Hello? Yes? Good morning. Günaydın. I've been learning some Turkish, and you know, is it günaydın? Yes. Because the way that I remember it is it sounds like in English, well, good night then. Good night. Good night then. Good morning. Good night then. Good night then. See how you do it? It's how it works for me anyway. Do you mind if I vape? Anyway, and so on the one hand I'm thinking, well, you know, I'm not going to be the guy who stands here and tells you how important it is, because it's been going on forever, images in classrooms. And on the other hand, you know, as you think about these presentations, you're overwhelmed with resources and information and ideas. And I think, you know, one of the great things, well, one of the things I always think about with Nik is just how astonishing he is. You know, for me, Nik, you are an astonishing collector of information in a world where we need people to gather and assess and pass back to teachers the overwhelming choice that is out there. And that's one of my themes in my talk today, actually, is to leave you with as many places to go as possible beyond technology, well, not beyond, before technology, print, and writing and blogs, I suppose, where I find my passion in ELT. There are three things that I'm going to do with images today that capture what I really love about training teachers and when I was teaching children and adults who behave like children. And they are these things here. They are storytelling for me. Again, not original, but very popular. And again, always a linchpin, always at the heart of teaching. And I've noticed I've been coming to Turkey for 6 or 7 times in the last year, and I'm going to be coming back more and more, thanks to my sponsors who brought me here, UES, the Unlimited Educational Services, and Black Cat, who are the publishers of these reading books. And also thank you to Gaziantep Kolej for bringing me. I thought, how do I focus my talk? And I thought, well, generally I know that in presentations people only remember 2 or 3 things. You know, no matter how much we try, and you look at the slides later, there's always 2 or 3 things only. So I thought I'd stick to the 3 things I love to do when I meet teachers in large audiences or when I train. And one is I love to tell stories and help teachers to tell stories. And in this case, I'm going to do it more with images to tell stories to get the students to read. One of the things I talk a lot about these days is getting students to read and helping teachers to engage students in reading, and a perfect way is to use some images. And we're going to do a little activity. Do you feel like doing a simple activity today? Yes. Well, that wasn't very easy, was it? Are you sure you want to do an activity with Andy? Yes. Good. Well, too bad, because you're doing it anyway, and it's easy. Humour. I like to find a lot of humour in things, probably too much sometimes, but I thought, you know, one thing I think we can do, we're going to work hard today a little bit with me. You've done a lot of new information and you're going to do some reflecting with recap with Nik, and this afternoon you have workshops. So I thought it might be a nice opportunity for me to do a little bit of language play with images. There is, I suppose, to some extent, I'm going to have a walk, I think. Oh, you can't see me. I see. It was interesting when Nik asked you at the beginning to close your eyes. I suddenly realised that when the photographer was here, I'll go back. Do you realise, Nik, he's taken a picture of you presenting and everybody has their eyes shut? And yeah, it's not normal for him. Everybody's got their eyes open, but the irony is that Nik's presentation could be captured as the whole audience asleep. But Nik, that is not what happened. So my point about images, the camera does lie. That was a fantastic talk. And I'm going to mention Nik's blog later, because Nik is one of those people that carries all the technology tools you need to know. But I'm going to go back to basics a little bit, because sometimes that's what we do. We have no choice but to do. And I thought we'd have a bit of fun. If it makes you a better teacher, okay. But I think we can have a good laugh. Do you want some jokes Through pictures? All right. And then my whole life in ELT, apart from training, has been involved with materials, development, assessment, training, and communicating, and you know, revamping those materials, making them better, listening to teachers, what makes good materials, and of course, there's so much out there, we need to know where we can go. So I'm going to finish the presentation with some ideas on where we can find out how to use pictures in different ways. Everybody here has a different need, ages, levels, language work, and maybe a different preference for the way you like images. Maybe you prefer cartoons. Wasn't that fantastic, amazing? Did you feel that you didn't want to come back and talk and listen to me because you want to go make a cartoon? Right, very nice to me. There's the result. I'll finish with a story about something that really happened to me, and based on another idea where I think students should be encouraged to bring photographs to the classroom in whatever way they're allowed to. It was interesting about Nick saying that, you know, in many schools you're not allowed to bring mobile phones in. Is that the case here? They have to turn off their phones, or they're not allowed to bring their phones? Are they banned in your school or class? Yeah. And yet, there are so many wonderful activities for students to be using pictures together. I think we're in a transitional generation of teachers where we feel uncomfortable about losing control of our class. But I think by 2036, I don't think that's going to be the problem. I mean, that whole idea of sharing phones, I think by then as teachers, we will have developed into using phones and images in ways where students don't necessarily go onto Facebook. They know that what they're doing with their phone is just as much a part of using some paper and pen. When we give them pencils and pens and paper, we know that they're going to do their work. We know they're not going to start drawing pictures and writing poems, so they'll stay on task. So I thought I'd get started with a story, actually. I think I get a story. I'll do a story. The beginning of a story. Do you use pictures from books to get them in the reading? Yeah. So who's this? What is she? A witch. Which witch? This witch. Yeah, that's about as good as it gets, so I'm going to be going. So, which witch? This witch. Is she? Where is she? In the sky. One student told me she was in space, which I thought was interesting. Don't know. Why? Who is she with? Who is she with? A cat. The witch's name. Does anybody know this story from the book? Bathsheba, the witch. It's a lovely story, and her cat's name is Cobweb. Great name for a cat, right? Cobweb. And what's she doing? She's flying. Come on, whole sentences, teachers. Flying. That's it, Andy. I'm done. You know, I've got a long. This is Saturday. I can't do a whole sentence on a Saturday. I'm not paid for that. Take that gerund, and that's it. She's flying. She's flying. And where? She's flying on a broomstick. Yeah. So this actually is my mother-in-law, and who unfortunately isn't here today. She's back home, so I get to say whatever I want. What is she doing in the sky, flying? Why is she in the sky? She's doing magic. You can do magic. You can do. Okay, so no more singing in this one. No singing in. What is the magic she's doing? What is she? She's drawing. Yeah, it looks like it. She's casting a spell. Where is she? In the sky. Why is she casting a spell?
Creating clouds.
What? Sorry, clouds?
Creating clouds.
Creating clouds. It's the opposite. Moving them. Yeah. What's oh, I don't think anyone noticed. What do you think is down here? Town, village. So, town and a village. So what does she do at night? Yeah. Why? So in the morning, when she says, good night then, when she wakes, yeah, in the morning, the weather is beautiful, because at night, she works her magic to move the clouds away, and she paints the grey sky blue. Isn't that beautiful? So again, using a picture. This is a picture in a book. Look how much you know that you can do with a picture in a book. I thought I would do something a little bit different. I mean, that's what we usually do. And then normally you go straight into the story. Don't worry, you don't have to read it. We'll come back to it. But sometimes that's also not enough. There's the book. It's a nice book. But I thought we could pre-teach some vocabulary. Do you ever do this, like a memory game with images? So before I... Yes? Okay, good. This is the good side. Sorry, I should grow up, really. Where was I? Oh yeah, so what you can do, get some pictures and think about the vocabulary in your text. And then pre-teachers, you know this, but I thought I'd do one with you, just to recap, yeah? And I picked some pictures, because these items of vocabulary are in the first chapter. Because I often find when I teach kids and adults who are learning English to read, I think we take for granted just how much support they need. So images, not only in the illustrations of the book, to support a good book will illustrate, it's not enough. And you look how much work you have to do. So let's do some work with the vocabulary. I'm going to let you look at these pictures for 30 seconds only. And what do you have to do? No, not sleep. Memorize the pictures. How many pictures and what objects can you remember in 30 seconds? Ready? Go. Well, I think you've had long enough. It's too easy. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Quickly with a partner, which objects do you remember? You've got 2 minutes. Okay, do you want to see them? Do you want to see them? Okay, there you go. Let's give them some numbers, let's get some navigation here. Right, so, did you remember all of them? Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I got them all. What's number 2? Okay. Mountain, 3. Look, by the way, you're now my class. I'm not assuming that you don't know these words. I'm just demonstrating, okay? So number 3, gate, yes. Number 1. What? There's a little button here in the middle. It's quite sensitive. Yeah. This is going so well. What is that? Number 5. Yeah, well, this is the point with an image. What can we do? I want the students to know clouds, but in the story it's also storm clouds. I heard some of you say storm clouds. Yes. 4. Ah, 4 is difficult. Magic, yes, or spell. Now, in an image, there's no right or wrong, but if you're, in my agenda here, in storytelling, is I'm eliciting, pulling out the story before they see the text. I want the text, the reading, to be super familiar before they start reading. Because it's, you know, reading text is quite a challenge, so let's make it supported. I also want to hear the word spell, because I know in the text the word spell is coming. So I teach spell. Yeah, number 6, forest. 9, valley. Well, I know the story, and I've read it, and it's valley. It's a valley, not a volley. It's not a volleyball. It's a valley. We'll do some pictures with pronunciation a bit later on, because there's some very important differences with minimal pairs. When you change the vowel, and you have a whole new meaning. And I think pictures are a superb way to let students see exactly what happens when you don't get your pronunciation correct. And Laura, later on this afternoon, is going to be talking about pronunciation with you. And in fact, it's quite common that you're going to be spoilt for choice, because Sam is also talking about storytelling. So your whole day is all linked together. That's how good this place is. It's all thought through for years. Number 7. Yeah. Students often say pot, so then we say, well, it's witch's pot. Cauldron, yeah, cauldron. What's inside the cauldron? Potion. Yeah, potion. Students love to say it's poison. So let them play with that idea. They usually say, oh, it's poison. Poison for my teacher. Yeah. And in the story, I can tell you, we don't have time for this, because this is about images. In the story, Bathsheba, the witch, wants to go and see the village. She's never seen the village. She just works at night with her cat, working hard to make the weather beautiful for the next day. But she wants to meet people, but she's afraid of people because she knows that people are afraid of witches. So she creates a potion in order for her to be invisible. Yes, invisible. It makes her invisible. So she goes into the town, and then she gets more confident, and then she starts to go into the town, the village, and she's visible, but she falls in love. Oh. She falls in love with a lovely, handsome man. But he doesn't love her. Life skills for children. Life skill, that's life. That's the end of the story. She's broken-hearted and she lives a miserable life. She becomes an alcoholic. Dies young. No, sorry. She makes another potion, which is a spray. This is a good one. She sprays. Well, she makes a spray so that if she sprays it to the handsome, he's a soldier in uniform. Oh, yeah, it's a man in uniform. And if you spray, he will fall in love with her. You want to get this? It's on eBay. It's like 20 lira. But he's allergic to cats. Oh. So he kills the cat. But she brings the cat back to life. Okay, thank you. Front row's very dark. This is moving quickly. We better move on. So, yeah, anyway, but it all goes horribly wrong because the spray gets out of control and everybody starts falling in love with the wrong people. Oh, but that's not so bad if we all love each other. I could do this for half an hour. So she needs the help of a wizard, and it all becomes good. So that's what I do. We teach the words, we do a memory game, and then we can go maybe into some words, because we want them to know the sound before they start reading. Because, you know, we don't want some, if their first language is Turkish, if they see the words first, they might start to feel a different pronunciation. So we need them to hear the words first, don't we? Through the pictures, hear the words, and then we can attach the spelling. And then you can say, number 3, Valley, or you can mix and match. I mean, you know, if you follow Nick's blog and his newsletter, I'm sure there are tools for putting these in and making your own drag and drop. Yes? Yes, I think so. And there you go, I take the text and I just make gaps, you know. In the middle of a dark forest, on top of a high, there's a black house, a garden. Okay, so you know, that's how that, so that's how we can use pictures from wherever we want, or inside the book, to get as much out of the class before we start launching into the reading. And I do a lot of storytelling, but I do like to do storytelling in order to get the stories to come out of the books as well. So, and that's really important, you know. I think storytelling has become incredibly popular in Turkey, I've noticed, in many cities, which is a great thing. Do you do storytelling with your students? Well, now you know, now you can. So I can recommend some fantastic materials at the end about that. So that's how you can go into a story. I like cartoons, I like old pictures too. It doesn't matter, whatever you like. Put them in a sequence. What can you do here? What can you do there? Memory game, I suppose. Let's do storytelling again now with pictures. You could quickly make a story, couldn't you? So you go, well, you know, who wants to start the story? First sentence of the story. A couple were on holiday. 2. But they lost their key, you know. 3. You can imagine. Yeah. And they found it in the suitcase. So that's okay. But then you could make it more interesting. You could bring dice. Ah, see, now you change the whole game. So I could say, well, or you could, instead of saying students pick the numbers, and then in pairs, partner A chooses a number, and partner B has to make a sentence. Together they create a story. A dice throws in a random element. Bring in dice, or if you want to save money, there are lots of free apps which will give you a dice application. Hit the button. Or you can make spinners, you know, card with 6 sides. Make a hole, then you have a spinner. If you put a matchstick or a cocktail stick in. So, but then you can play with numbers. So, 5. I was in my room. 2. And 2. The key, but I found somebody else's key in the room. 1. Anyway, I went to take a look at the balcony. You know, so then the numbers rearrange. What do you think? You want to do that? You can do that? It's quite easy. But why don't you do other things with the dice? Then it becomes even more powerful with the pictures. So, let's go back. Imagine you can tell the students very clearly, you know, maybe on the board, make it really clear. Number 1 is blue. Number 2 is red. Number 3, yellow. Whatever colours. So when you throw a dice, the students have the pictures. Number 4, red. I don't like that one. Throw it again. 6. His shirt is red. Doesn't matter. I want the English, not the accurate semantics. Yeah? Then you can do 2 dice. So the first dice throws a number to choose the picture, and then the next dice, the colour. So, picture 2. Oh, orange. My key is orange. Sometimes I think it's important when you don't have to use the literal image, just the concept of key, the concept of a view. So step outside the image and let it represent the language, not the actual picture. But look, prepositions. Number 1, on. Number 2, at. Number 3, in. Whatever you want, over, under. So again, throw the dice. And they make, you know, sentences with objects. So, you know, on. The man's drink is on the table. Under. My socks are under my shirt. What do you think? Useful? Do you use dice with pictures? It's a really, really useful, powerful way to vary the activities. The students will also have ideas for you. They can also give you some tips. Tenses. Number 1, present simple. Number 2, present continuous. Number 3, past simple. You see what I'm doing there? Then you can let them decide some verbs. They can brainstorm verbs with you, and then they can choose a tense. 3, past simple. I drank my orange juice at the cafe. Future, going to. I'm going to pack my suitcase for holidays. Yeah? So, tenses and questions. The English language has been perfect for dice. Who, why, when, where, what. Why, who, when, where, what, how. Perfect. Isn't that weird? Yeah. Well, not that weird. And pronouns, he, she, it. We, them, you. So so step away from the actual image and just let it be a prompt for the language you want. And I can tell you I've done huge numbers of workshops with this. Students speak. That's the fantastic thing. Because here's the thing about images with flashcards. The general view of flashcards is that they should be like this. And we go like this, and then this, and there are lots of great activities. You're probably, why have I got my glasses on? Flashcards are very sort of teacher-centered, I think, and that's okay. We need to teach them stuff, maybe give them flashcards, but the reality of playing with cards, they're small, no? So make mini flashcards. The students will make them with you. And then create the same packs of topics. Find the topics. I'll show you some places to go to find images, but then you know how to find images. Google, you tap in a word, you click on images, and then you found what you need. So if you create mini flashcards and get some dice or spinners, then the students can play games together with the dice. That's a fantastic resource. And I think that really changes the way flashcards are used, because it's important to students, it's tactile. It's not just for children, teenagers. I've used these with adults. They don't care, they just want to have a way of doing something and having a visual prompt to work with. Right. Well, it's nearly lunchtime, you know. So let's have a little bit of fun now. I like to do, we all like a good laugh, don't you? Like a good laugh? Yeah. Bring humour into the classroom, humour into the conference. I'm not sure how helpful these things will be, but I quite like them. As language enthusiasts, I think it's quite good to play with the images, to see how language can go wrong with the wrong punctuation, or without punctuation. So it can kill people. Grandmothers all over the world are dying through lack of commas. Let's eat. And of course that's intonation now, isn't it? It's intonation. How do you say the first one? Let's eat Grandma. She looks pretty tasty to me. Actually, that doesn't sound very appropriate now I've said that. Forget it. Delete that. So, and the bottom one is, how do you say that? Let's eat. Grandma? Hey, what about if you have one grandma, my two grandmothers are no longer with us, but if you have two of them together, you could say, hey, let's eat Grandma. You're not sure about that one, are you? Actually, it's a very famous one. Look at these two sentences. And imagine the pictures. Let's not use the pictures first. Let's create the pictures after. All right. Quickly with your partner. Describe the pictures, the two different pictures in your mind. Describe it to your partner. You've got 1 minute. Okay, ready? Ready? We've got one more after this one, but I'm going to show you the book. It comes from a book, and the book actually... Oh, you want to do more? Okay, yeah. Ready? Ah, yeah? Did you do that? Yeah? Was Grandma inside? And the next one? Let me state the very obvious in English language teaching, the power of image. The power of image. Wow. Look at that huge hot dog. Try that. Say it to yourself. Look at that huge hot dog. Look at that huge hot dog. Hot dog. Hot dog. It's really important, no? I'd like a hot dog for dinner. I'd like a hot dog for dinner. I'd like Grandma and a hot dog for dinner. Call me old-fashioned, but that's my kind of Sunday dinner. After we left, Grandma, Mummy, and you say that to yourself. How do you pronounce those two sentences? Try it to yourself. And now think about the image. Think of the intonation. Think of the images. And if your students are not too embarrassed by the idea, maybe the teenagers will like it, they could draw their own picture, right? Well, that's a good idea. Draw your own picture to represent the understanding of what happens when you put the comma in the right place. All right? What about that? After we left, oh, there's the other one. So we got the first one. After we left, Grandma, Mummy, and I skipped about in the park. Very normal activity in most places. Waving the Zimmer frame high above her head. And the dog, unaware that later the dog will be eaten. Blissfully unaware of the future that lies ahead. So, sorry? Oh yes, true. Yes, and Grandma also blissfully unaware of the fate that awaits her on the barbecue. I mean, personally, I saw Grandma on the barbecue. This is me, barbecue grandparent. You know, the things you say in presentations that you never planned to say, and the infinite possibilities of language. I wonder, in the history of civilization, has anybody ever said, I'm going to eat Grandma on the barbecue tonight? Yeah, probably. Yeah, maybe. With a hot dog. I don't know. Grammar is finite. The output is infinite. After we left Grandma, Mummy and I skipped about in the park. There you go. So look at that. Bump. Bump. Nice, no? Nice? Well, I got it from this book. You know the book? Who knew the book? Huh? Oh yeah, Laura, okay. And it was a sort of children's version of punctuation awareness from a successful title some years ago by a writer, journalist, and broadcaster, Lynn Truss, who often heard talking about language on Radio 4, the BBC. And if you don't know this book, do you know this book? Eats, shoots, and leaves. Also ambiguous without punctuation. The cowboy. Maybe it's a story about a cowboy. Goes into a saloon, and his enemy is in the saloon, but he's got his dinner. So he eats, he shoots, and he leaves. Or you're a panda with your bamboo, who for dinner protects his grandparents and only eats, shoots, and leaves. So lovely books, and this one is, a good read for anybody interested in English. It's a good, funny. It's a funny book, but it's also an important book because Lynn Truss, like many of us, as lovers of language, and in this case English, and to a large extent very precious about the way some things are changing in English. As I'm going to show you in a moment, a lot of native speakers in the UK, for example, or in other places where English is the mother tongue, native speakers not only make mistakes, but they often don't know the rules when it comes to writing. You know that, right? In Turkish is the same. Is that the same? Yeah, so that's why, and people say, look, would you stop making these mistakes? There is a reason why we have the apostrophe for the possessive. Stop getting it confused. We had to learn this at school. Why don't you learn it? But it's, you see a lot. If you look at even established journals and newspapers, you see mistakes in spelling. And so this is a lovely book about trying to be aware of what's going on. So here's an example of, some signs. MOTs, servicing, crash repairs. Oh. What's my point? The point is many people, I'm just choosing the UK, but in anywhere where English is the native language, you often see, confusing usage of grammar and, in this case, punctuation. What's the purpose for the language classroom? Well, if you Google spelling mistakes, signs, or punctuation mistakes, public signs, that kind of thing, you find loads of them. And think of the opportunities for the students to correct them, or maybe just if there's any misunderstanding. Do you ever look at these and see? Did you know that people make serious mistakes like this in signs? Yes, it's a language opportunity. If you Google images, signs with mistakes. Oh, you should see what happens. Look at that. Oh. It took me a whole morning. School. A spelling mistake outside of school. Oh. What is going on? These are not jokes. These are real. Do you understand? These are real. You can find them. Take them into your classroom. Think about something you're teaching. Look for it on a sign. Wow. Oh. What can you do? Spelling. Well, we say in English, many a true word said in jest, but in this case, many a true word said in error. I think I've done my fair share of executive board rooms. Yeah? What's the spelling? Yeah, B-O-A-R-D. I'm going to be very quick with the next one, but I couldn't resist it. The wrong word. So now I know you really well. That's okay. Well, what's the word? What's the wrong word here? Prosecuted. I'm not going to say any more on that one. Oh, this is my picture. I can't remember when I took this picture. I'm English and I live in Scotland. I say that because when I say to people, I live in Scotland, they go, oh, you don't sound Scottish, Andy. I go, well, no. Did you know that some people actually go and live in places they were not born in? Did you know that? Yeah, okay. I live in Scotland and I'm English. Okay, it's not a political statement. It's just to clear up why I live in a country and have a different English accent. Okay, and I saw this picture, I think it must be Scotland. Do not cross this field, but you can see there's something missing. I've taken it out, because maybe in some of the signs that you see, you can ask students to guess or make up what they think. What kind of warning is this? Why not cross the field? Do not cross this field. Why? Huh? Military, there is military action. That's a reasonable answer, but it's not the correct one. Mines? No, it's not about military conflict. Yes. Somebody just shouted out bull. I don't think that's a comment on my presentation. I just hope it's the warning about a large, dangerous animal, a bull. So what kind of warning could the students write on this? What could they say? Yeah, danger, dangerous bull. Yeah, beware. But the real picture, I loved it. Beautiful. Now, can you read it at the back, yeah? Do not cross this field unless you can do it in 9 seconds, because the bull can do it in 10. Does anyone know the Guardian newspaper in the UK? Okay. Well, there are all sorts of good things about that paper. Not perfect, but one of the things that's good for images is news stories, which I'll show a little bit later before we finish. But I think they still do them, but there was a cartoon series. There was a cartoon series in The Guardian, is it still running, by Graham Roll. And the series is called Lost Consonants. Lost Consonants. And it's a sort of play on the sound, because it sounds like Atlantis, which you mentioned earlier. It sounded like lost continents. So the joke of the series is lost consonants. And the joke is, with an image, the artist, he creates an image on what happens if you take away a very important consonant. You know, okay, so this is, okay, we'll do one. But this is, oh, yeah, my slides, all of these will be on my website by tomorrow morning, okay? I promise. Because I always make a few changes when I finish a talk, because something else happens that's better than I'm planning. So if you want to see these slides, check in tomorrow at eltconnections.com and look under talks, and I'll put in Gaziantep and you can have it. And some links, of course, all these links are there. Graham Roll, and fantastic. So you're thinking, Andy, what is happening here? Well, this is what he does. But I turn it into an activity. Oh, every time the doorbell rang, the dog started to bark. Yeah, the dog started to bark. Yeah? That's what you expect. Not barking. The correct English is the dog started to bark. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Yeah. Every time the doorbell rang, the dog started barking. Yes. But that's what you're expecting. But imagine if you take out a consonant, you have a whole different meaning. Beautiful. So if you look at Lost Consonants by Graham Roll, you find so many. If you go to Pinterest, or just Google Images, or his website, there are books. Okay, what do you think? Nice. There are so many. The man must think like this all the time. You know? What about this one? But what happens if I take away a very important consonant. What about this one? He finally found work as a long-distance lorry. Not in this sentence. Yeah? So if you want some good English entertainment with some images, go to grahamroll.com or just Google the images under his name, Lost Consonants, and maybe you could make different classroom activities. Maybe you can just have some fun. What are these? What are these? What are these? Ah, okay. See? That's what we're doing now. Do you use pictures to get the right pronunciation? So important. We're going to see why in a moment. You can see what's coming maybe, I don't know. Get those images. Let the students remember forever through a picture the difference between hills and heels. I mean, I talk to people a lot about reading and storytelling to build life skills. And I hear people telling me skills. Well, it doesn't change the meaning. And I understand what you mean, but I think, well, let's try and say skills, not skills. Because one day you have a problem by saying, I went for a walk in the heels. And you go, Andy, what are you doing walking in your heels? No, I was in the heels. Where? In my heels in Scotland. You wear heels in Scotland? Oh no, hills. Hills. So, I know you know the difference, but do you make the effort? Do you make the effort? Make the effort. I speak German. I studied German. I taught English in Germany for many years. And there is a German. Does anybody here speak German? No German? Yeah? Well, you know the word schwul and schwül. Well, the word schwül with a fronted vowel with the umlaut is humid. Okay? Schwül. But without the umlaut, schwul, it means gay. Now, I'm telling you a true story that I was in a classroom in front of 8-year-olds when I was 20 years old as a language assistant, and I didn't use the dative case because I didn't realize I should use the dative to get things to sound humid. And I told a class of 25 8-year-olds that I was extremely gay today. What? Gay? No, I'm just hot. Schwul. Schwul? Same thing. Not the same thing, Andy. Heels. Hills. Please. I've been reading Gulliver's Travels with many classes and schools in Turkey, and we do Gulliver's Travels. And many of the students tell me, when I have a picture of Gulliver lying on the sand in ropes, tied down by the people of Lilliput. And I say, how did he get there? And they start to realize, he was on a sheep. And they go, no, he's not a farmer. What, farmer? No, on a sheep. Yeah. What are you doing? Oh, that's a sheep. That's a ship. Why is that important? Well, because this is a sheet. Okay? It's not that. It's not that. It's a sheet. I was in a hotel once and I said, well, it was not a clean room. I went downstairs and I said to the guy on the reception, I said to him, look, I need a sheet in my room. You want the sheet in your room? There's no toilet. No, don't do that, I said. I want a sheet. I want a sheet on my bed. You want a sheet on your bed? See? Sheet. This one. Now, tree and three. I mean, For example, with an Irish accent, it's often 3, you know, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's Irish. 1, 2, 3, Andy. Yeah, that's okay. That's Irish. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3. So it doesn't affect the meaning. It doesn't affect the meaning. I've got all Irish now. What's all about? Actually, I'm from Merseyside near Liverpool, so I start to move into a Scouse accent and talk with a Liverpool accent. You know, like you know, been to Liverpool? No, been to Liverpool. Ireland. Have you been to Ireland? Anyone been to Ireland? Nobody. No. You're just looking at me now. 3. Now, when I was a teacher, when I first started teaching, I worked in a language lab. A language lab. There were no computers, just cassettes and headphones. And there is still a book called 3 or 3. You probably know it. This is the new edition, but there's an old edition. And my job in the language lab in the afternoons was to go down there, and when the students from the morning would come down, my job was to recommend pronunciation or listening materials to go away and practice, yeah? And the student came to me and said, Andy, this is my course book. My course book. I go, okay. 3 or 3, okay? 3 or 3. And I carried on working, and with other students. I noticed he wasn't in the room anymore. And I said, where's, I can't remember his name, Paolo. Where's Paolo? Oh, I know. He's in room 303, waiting for his lesson. He went to room 303. I said, 3 or 3. He heard 303. So he wasn't thinking about the difference. I thought that was quite I've never forgotten it. And I went into the classroom and he was sitting there, waiting for, I don't know what. I said, no, the book is called 3 or 3. Anyway, I'm going to start to close now before you... Is it lunchtime soon? Okay. We know what we're going to eat, don't we? Well, there are plenty of places to get free stock images. I mean, sometimes you have to be careful which images, copyright, but there are lots of places where you can get free images and a range of topics of all kinds, and Pixabay is a very popular one for getting pictures. And ELT Pix is also a fantastic way of finding images by English teachers for English teachers. A free resource. You sign in to Flickr, which is an online collection of albums, like Picasa for Google. You have online photographs. And in ELT Pix, this was created to allow you to look for imperatives. I don't want to press this button, imperatives, body language, abstract nouns, sentences, festivals, adjectives. So teachers, you can join in and put in your pictures and categorize them. That's useful, no? They've done all the work for you. ELT Pix. And The Guardian, I was saying earlier, for stories, you know, look at The Guardian, and you can find 20 photographs of the week. So if you're working with news stories, they've got some fantastic photographs from photojournalists, where you can see some photographs from the week's news, and then maybe you can use it to guess the story, establish what's going on. If I tell you this is in Mexico, what's the story here? Mexico. The idea of Donald Trump wanting to build a wall between Mexico and the US, and here you have a short text on the story. And there's one, we had recently had a poison attack in South England, and this image is a fantastic image to sort of make the students think, what is going on here? So if you like using the news, you can go to places like The Guardian for stories of the week captured in images. And again, like I said, I think we should all do our best to find images that bring reality into the classroom. Course books are beautifully designed these days. A lot of time and money has gone in, but they have to pick safe images that everybody is comfortable with. And they're chosen from special stock sources to make sure everyone has, a generic, safe unit. But, maybe in your classes you can go outside that safety and use the real world. Anyway, students know that in a course book, that's fine, but we can maybe step outside the course book and find images from the real world. Bring the real world into your class. And there's the one on the news from that attack in the news. Whoops. So there you are, Nick. Nice plug for your blog. I have to say, officially, I do not know how you find the time to write and collect all this stuff. I really don't know if you sleep. But Nick's website and blog, there are many things, but I do recommend you quite a lot because I've learned so much. And there I noticed quite a long time ago, actually, a way that Nick was finding to scroll through a river of images. And you'll find Nick, I thought it only fair, he's on first. I'll tell you that he's found a lot of material on using images, visual literacy. These are some names, if you don't know them. Andrew Wright, Ben Goldstein, and Janie Keddy are generally very, very well-known and successful names who've written books and articles about using images in the classroom. So when you start to look for new books, or you're looking online for articles, keep a lookout for these wonderful writers and trainers, and try and see them if they come to your neighbourhood. Although Andrew is, I think, semi-retired, doesn't travel so much, but Andrew Wright, I think he's in his late 70s, Andrew now, maybe older, a pioneer, one of the early pioneers of encouraging students to be putting images at the heart of learning. And pictures, let me remind you, are not just for children. Pictures are for everybody. Stories. We hear about pictures in the classroom, and we hear about stories for the classroom. And let me be really clear, I would do the same thing, maybe a different choice of images, for people who teach business English, or people who teach teenagers. It doesn't matter. Pictures and stories are not only for children. I just want to make that clear, in case people feel, no, I don't teach children, I don't do cartoons. Think about what you can do with these images for any purpose of language. After all, language is not a subject, it's a skill. And we're teaching them to use that skill. Prompts like images are very powerful. Recently, I'm going to close now, sorry I'm running over time, but I'm going to just spend a few more minutes and then we can go and eat grandma. I've left out some names of people who specialise in video. One of them is Kieran Donaghy, but various other colleagues of his. Images, videos. Obviously today, to keep it focused, I didn't do video today, just still images. But the Visual Arts Circle is a new community that you can join for free. I think it's free, yeah. Of ELT professionals who got together, who believe in and want to share the practices of using images in any kind of English teaching scenario. And we're talking not just teachers, photographers, video editors, as well as trainers. So the Visual Arts Circle, and this is a free downloadable book called The Image, and there are, I think, about 20 articles on using images. So if you just get this book free download, you've already got a lot of material to start thinking about how are you going to use the images? What do your classes need to do? How can you adapt what you read here to your situation? There you go, there's Ben Goldstein there. British Council is always a good place to go. I know that most of you, certainly I, will be going home tonight and making cartoons with Toontastic. So what can I do with that? Well, it sounds like it does a pretty good job on its own. But, there's lots of information out there on using cartoons and cartoon strips. And I sort of cheated here by going straight to the British Council. This teachingenglish.org website has an enormous amount of information just on how can I use cartoons, how can I use comic strips. And a magazine which I could never be without, actually, I've used it for a long, long time, called ETP. We call it ETP. English Teaching Professional magazine, digital or print, 6 times per year, and it has a lovely website. Sorry, you want that? Same thing. Okay. This is for any English teacher of any age, any level, any need, anywhere. and all the best, great and good in ELT, including teachers, not just famous coursebook writers and people, sharing their best practices, articles, activities. And when you subscribe to the magazine, you also have access to 25 years of articles and activities on the website. So that's a fantastic resource. And I thought I'd finish there with an images page, because Jamie Keddy, who I mentioned earlier, was also very, very strong on storytelling with images. He wrote a series of 10 articles, and I'm going to put some of them on my website tonight. I have permission. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, and Bathsheba, do you remember her from the beginning, all those hours ago? Bathsheba will make the weather so beautiful in Antep, which I heard is the way you say it. And I'll put some articles and free material, but if you go to those links, there's plenty there for everybody. So I think I've done enough for now. I really, yeah. It's always nice to be welcomed at the airport. So use images with your storytelling. Try and find some humour with the images. There's nothing wrong with that. Make it practical. Find a focus. And above all, go and find those resources. Go to those links. Use Nik's resources, what he collects for you. And come to people like us to help you find what you need. But I think you'll find if you go home and start to look at those resources and use them. There's a lot. Try one thing every week. If it's too much, just little by little. Then you have a whole new range of materials. In this case, based on images. And I wish you well with your classes. Thank you for listening.
So I want to thank Mr. Paul for his wonderful presentation, and I'd like to invite our primary school principal, Mr. Mustafa Şener, to the stage.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you. No good thing. No, I think I'll take that off. I know what this is.
It's very nice to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for having me here. We are really happy for this contribution.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you very much, Michael. I won!
So we're hungry, right? Now let's all head towards the lunch area, and we'll be back no more than 1 hour as the workshops are scheduled for 1:15. You've already registered for the workshops yet? Okay. And before leaving the room for the lunch, let's remember the workshops will be on the -2nd floor. And let me present the workshops for you. Laura Moulton will be presenting You Can't Say That. Christopher Sheen will be presenting To Maul or Not to Maul, and Sam Witham will be presenting Why the Tortoise Has a Crack Shell. I also want to remind you that we're going to have the action research poster presentations at 2:15 just after the workshops, and it will be followed by the raffle, which I like the most, at around 2:30 in the main conference hall, which is here. And let me make a confession. I saw the raffle gifts. They're awesome. You have to wait for that. And we've got several books from Oxford University Press, and we've got online professional development course for teenagers, and we've got a bunch of methodology books. And last but not least, don't forget to visit the registration desk to collect your certificates before leaving. Please don't hesitate to ask anything to our staff. We'll be happy to help. Goodbye for now. Thank you.
The front row's looking particularly empty.
Why is that?
But if we can move down a little bit, then it makes it all nice and cozy. You don't have to shout at the back. So if everybody moves down a wee bit, that would be awesome. All people from in there. Oh, what's up there? Yeah, perfect. There we go. Awesome. Do you know each other? No. Make friends. Thank you very, very much for coming. You've chosen the right session. I hope you don't regret this. So do I. We're going to look at pronunciation today. Okay, obviously, hands up who has taught or loves teaching pronunciation. So you're in the wrong session, go to another one because you're already doing it. Who wants to teach it but is a bit scared? Okay, that's my target audience, so I've just pitched this completely wrong. Oh, we've got loads more people. All right, let me listen. Come on. Oh, fantastic. Okay, this is really, I mean, obviously there are so many areas of pronunciation and phonetics and phonology and all of this sort of stuff that we could spend a week on this, which I love. Well, we haven't got time for that, we've only got an hour. So I'm going to really simplify this and look at practical things that we can bring into the classroom without having to worry about phonemes and all of this and extra stuff, but looking at integrating it and looking at getting over our fears of it and looking at ways to approach it in a hopefully fun way. This is quite a light-hearted approach. We're going to do a couple of activities, but these are not set activities. Hopefully this is a springboard for adapting that activity to other things, all right? And I've pitched them to kind of primary level, but we want to think about how we can use those at secondary level, high school level, or any level at all, all right? So we're going to start with a pair of activity, which is this. What are the reasons for teachers not wanting to teach pronunciation? Perhaps you do, but if you do, you probably have colleagues that don't. Perhaps you don't, but you'd like to. So let's just take about a minute and a half with your partners, your new friends, and just either come up with your reasons for not doing it or reasons you think other people don't do it. Okay? In pairs, 90 seconds. I tried to monitor, but there's like, I don't know how many of you, so it wasn't possible. So I just walked around smiling and nodding and not really listening, and yeah, like my very first year as a teacher. So let's put your hands up if you've got something you'd like to contribute to this discussion. Yes?
Maybe because they are not native speakers.
Okay.
So they are afraid from making mistakes.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just don't want to put offer in this.
All right, yeah, would you agree with that? Is that something you discussed? Yeah, so if you're not a native speaker of English, you maybe don't have the confidence yourself in, well, is that really how they say it? Or maybe my pronunciation's not that good. I don't want to be a bad model. So this is something I hear a lot, and hopefully will make you feel a bit more confident about it, okay? Yes?
Maybe they think that as long as the students can deliver the idea, it's not important.
It's not important. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. Do you agree with that? Or yes, it's something I hear a lot from non-natives and natives actually. We just go, pronunciation is not important. But I'm guessing here, how many of you are non-native speakers of English? Everyone. Any native speakers of English? Was it just me? Pressure's on then, isn't it? But as someone also who has tried to learn other languages languages as well, when you're saying, especially when you're a beginner and you're saying something for the first time, you want to say, am I saying it right? That's actually before you know any grammar, when you're just learning words, am I saying it right? One of the reasons my Turkish is really bad is I'm a bit embarrassed that I'm getting my pronunciation wrong. I know the grammar's wrong because my grammar's rubbish, but I don't think that matters. So to our students, it actually is quite important, and I think we forget that. We get so bogged down in grammar. Yeah? But I don't. That's a whole other session, anyway. All right, any other ideas or reasons? Yes?
Well, maybe a phonetic difference between Turkish and English.
Absolutely.
You
can't approach it. Okay, now this is...
The output of the letters and the sounds.
Yes. Now this is something we're not going to go into because we don't have enough time, but I often do this to my students. I say, okay, how many vowels are there in English? And they say A, E, I, O, U. Yeah? I'm like, okay, how many vowels in Turkish? And it's a phonetic language. How many vowels are there in Turkish? 8. 8. How many vowel sounds are there in Turkish? 8.
Laura, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Hello.
Guys, you're going to pick up your certificates minus 2nd floor in the conference room, okay? After this workshop. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so 8 vowels in Turkish, 8 vowel sounds in Turkish. 5 vowels in English, how many vowel sounds?
500.
Well, actually, do you know what? If you take in all the regional variations, not just in England and the UK, but across the world, you might not be far off. But when we look at the phonemic chart, you've got, I think it's 20. Yes. So there are some sounds that exist in English that don't exist, not just in Turkish, but in lots of languages. Likewise, we don't have the in English. We don't have it. But I know how to spell it, and I know how it should be sounded, yeah? There's a spelling and pronunciation difference as well. There's lots of reasons. So maybe you as a teacher, like me, if I was trying to teach the sound, I can't do that, it sounds like I'm about to throw up. No, I can't, I'm not very good at it because I'm learning it as an adult. And maybe if you've learned English as an adult, or you know, young adult, maybe you haven't mastered those sounds. Does that mean you can't get your kids to master those sounds? Maybe you can. But we're going to look at a couple of those sounds in particular later on and see how we can approach them. Okay, so anything else to add? Or shall I move on? Move on, Laura. Okay, so we know why lots of teachers don't teach us. Lots and lots of reasons. Also time. You know, quite often we're pushed for time. And we think, well, I've got to get through this, and this. I don't have time for a whole pronunciation lesson. I've got to get the grammar done. It's no excuse. So we're going to look at how to integrate it. Okay? I'm going to look at other problems with it later in more detail. So what we need to think about is why should we be teaching pronunciation? I talked about one or two, but there's this. Look at there. It's not just about making the sounds or saying the words. It affects our listening skills. Yeah? And how does it affect our visual? The spelling, the written versus the spoken. Okay, so we can look at how that's affected. So actually, it affects a lot of things. It is pretty important. The other thing is a lot of people think pronunciation, or good pronunciation, is about speaking the Queen's English. How many people think that? I don't, because nobody speaks like the Queen. Not me, that's for sure. I've got a northern accent, a little bit. So people think, oh, I've got to sound British, or I've got to sound nonsense at all. So we're going to look at that as well. But what we're going to do is really get back to basics and think about when we do it, when on the few occasions we might do it, and this goes back to my early days of teaching, and I still do this a little bit now. How do you teach pronunciation? Let's say you've got a new word or a phrase, and you want your students to pronounce it correctly. What do? We say, if this works,
all the time.
We drill, right? Yeah? We drill. Who's drilled? We've all drilled. Yeah. Drill, drill, drill, drill, drill. Okay. And it's nice. We go in there. We're going to repeat after me. We're going to do a little drill children are a nice, kind teacher, I'm going to help you to say it, la la la la. But by the end of it, we're probably looking more like a drill sergeant, screaming you out because they still can't get it right. And how do you feel as a student? Do drills work? I don't know. A little bit. You've got to be really careful with them, and you've got to have a reason for using them, and you've got to do them well. If I'm trying to teach you a phrase or a word as a group, and I'm standing here drilling, am I going to be effective? Why not?
Because you're just one person and we are a lot.
You're a lot of people. This is quite scary. You're a lot of people, yeah. And I can't possibly hear who's saying anything. So I might, and then I've done this, I did this in my first year of teaching, maybe not to a group this big, but like 15, 20 students. I'm drilling, they're going da da da da da. I'm like, yeah, that's great. And then I thought, okay, choral drill, now let's do the individual drill. And you're putting those students on the spot, yeah? When you put them on the spot, again, you might think that you're being all really, I'm going to really help you. But it can be quite painful. When you hear the word drill, this is what I think of, the dentist drill. Yeah? How does that make you feel? A bit scared? It won't hurt, I promise you it's not going to hurt. This is going to be good for you. No. And so you're sitting there, we've done the choral drill. Now we do the choral drill, and some of you are confidently saying it, but I can't hear you. Some of you are getting it not quite right, but I can't hear you. Some of you are just going, and I think, oh, you're probably doing all right. I can't hear you. So let's do it individually. Now, I don't have the time. It's very time consuming. You go around, and then they're all getting it right, and then someone doesn't get it right. So you say it again. Listen, repeat, repeat. And maybe they get it right. But there'll always be one student that just can't get it. What do you do? What do? Do you just keep on drilling? I'm just picking on you. Just imagine. You're not getting it right, and I'm drilling, and everyone's looking at you going, come on, dude, we've all got it. And you're like, how do you feel? You don't feel very good about yourself. You'd probably rather be in a dentist drill chair, right? So drilling can be very, very counterproductive. How can you correct? How can you help them? Now, you can use it wisely and carefully and integrate it when necessary, but I wouldn't plan a drill. Because maybe they've got it right already. I've seen teachers do this as well. I'm going to drill this word. I think they'll be able to say that. I'm going to drill it anyway. I've got to do some pronunciation. And they're drilling a word, and everyone's got it. But the teacher's like, I'm drilling, I'm going to keep drilling. Everyone say this word, and they've got it. Everyone's got it. And then I'm still going to keep, why bother? Very, very time consuming. So be careful with the drill. And with a lot of teachers, that's as far as pronunciation goes in the classroom. Let's get rid of the drill. So, let's look at some other problems. Maybe? Okay, I'll just put these up. Now, this is just from my head and my experience. Please let me know if you think there's anything you want to add. I'll talk you through them. The main issue for me, well, I'll say that, it's probably I'll probably say this about everything. They do tend to be very accuracy focused. Unless you're looking at intonation, which can affect meaning. Yeah? Do you remember the commas and the intonation from the session earlier? Yeah? Okay. But they're very accuracy focused, which is like a bit, do we want to just focus on accuracy? Not really. Very, very teacher-led. It's very hard to do pronunciation without it being teacher-led. I know the pronunciation, maybe I don't, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. I am your model, listen and repeat, yeah? It's me at the front. That's exhausting, and that's not really the way you want to teach, because you know we're moving into things like learner-centered lessons, student-centered lessons, active learning, experiential learning, all of that kind of thing. If I'm standing at the front telling you how to say something, that's none of those things. And there's little content. Because it's accuracy focused, it's form focused, there's no content. Here's a word, here's how you say it. Here's the sentence, here's how you say it. Where's the content? Where's all the interesting stuff? And of course, we're moving more and more into CLIL, yeah? Who teaches CLIL? You do, you probably don't know. Different topics. If you're teaching like English, but you're doing the subject of geography, or history, or science, or something, or art, or crafts, or any of those things. But when it comes to pronunciation, we're just thinking about the words and how they're spelled and how they sound. There's no content. It's not interesting. There's nothing to get your teeth into. There's no scope for creativity. Again, one of the 4 C's of critical thinking, yeah, of 21st century skills: critical thinking, creative thinking, communication, collaboration.
There's no collaboration, there's no creativity, there's no thinking, listen and repeat. And again, we talked about this, teachers are not sure how to approach it, we talked about that, and many teachers are not confident in their own pronunciation. And that's not just non-native speakers of English, it's native speakers of English who have some kind of regional accent and think, I need to speak RP, BBC English. Now, if you listen to the BBC at all lately, BBC English is very widespread. It's not like the 1950s anymore. But people still have it in their heads. Americans teaching from British course books think, well, I don't say it like that. Oh, I don't know how, well, yeah, say it how you want to say it. That's absolutely fine, okay? So lots of people are very anxious about their pronunciation, and so they don't want to touch it. Now, I think before we really decide what we're going to focus on, or how to focus on it with our students, we've got to decide why there's a problem. I know we don't only really focus on it if I think there's going to be a problem, or there's a problem in the classroom. So sometimes this isn't something you can plan for. You've got to react to it. You can anticipate it, but maybe it's not a problem at all. Maybe you think everything's going to be fine, and they do have a problem. So we need to think, what is the problem? And I'm wrong, there might be other ideas, but I've basically come down to two choices. Two particular ways they're going to have a problem with it, and it's this, I think. Is it actually difficult to say, or is it that they just don't know how to say it? It depends. Doesn't it depend? Yeah? Yeah, okay. So sometimes some words in English are difficult to say, or some phrases are difficult to say. Some are really easy to say, but because of the spelling thing, maybe they've never heard it, they just don't know how to say it. We're going to stick to word level for the moment. We're going to move to sentence level in a second half of this, okay? So difficult to say, or don't know how to say it. Let's start with difficult to say. Who teaches tongue twisters? Class? No? No, because they are difficult to say on purpose, and I think people think, well, that's going to help pronunciation. It doesn't, because I can't say red lorry, yellow lorry any faster than that, and I think my English is all right, so I wouldn't use those. So difficult to say. I'd like you to think of a word. Everyone's got them. Everybody's got them. A word in English that you find, it's a shame we don't have any natives, because natives have this problem too. I'll share mine later. A word or words in English that you find difficult to say. Not because of the spelling, forget what it looks like, but getting those sounds out of your mouth. All right? So have a think, pair, and then we'll share. All right? Take a minute to talk to your partners, or try and come and listen to you. And if you're embarrassed to say the word to your partner, spell it out and say, I can't say this word, D-E-G, for example.
Which word is difficult for you? Not difficult word for you. Very difficult. Enthusiastic, like sounds like when it's like perfect, when you
hopefully, as you're doing this, you're maybe thinking about why you find it difficult to say. Maybe your partner can help you. Yeah? Alright. So, we did the thing, we did the pair, now it's the share. Anyone brave enough, if you don't want to say this word because it's difficult to say, you can come and write it on the board, as long as you can spell it. Would anyone like to share one of their words? Yes?
Confidential.
Oh, that's not bad.
Because of my native language, we are pronouncing it a little bit different. I'm not from Turkey, I'm from Bosnia.
You're from Bosnia?
Yeah, I'm from Bosnia. And that is the thing. We have that C, we are pronouncing C different than normal, and because of that, that depends on my...
the C K sound or the C S sound? It's
a
hard S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is like knocking on that word, and I cannot pronounce that word. P and L need to pronounce.
Ah, like confidentially.
Yeah.
So put a sup in there, you said. Ah, that hard sup. So I used to work in the Czech Republic and it's very similar, that hard sup sound, which I quite like. But we don't have it in Turkish, we don't have it in English. So
we have like j.
Yeah. All right, but you were brave enough to say it, and I think you said it quite nicely, to be honest. Yes. Any others? Nobody wants to share. Oh, the third. Okay, but that's not a word, that's just a sound. Nobody can. And you did it beautifully. I'll come back to that in a second. Let me just see what this means.
I can't pronounce it, but I will just, you know, like I just found it.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna
spell it out, or are you gonna?
It's very, it means it's a health problem, mental health problem. Like I have a really hard time doing this.
All right.
And
So
I had my speaking exam.
I do this in class when students have a problem, because if I model it for you, you're going to think you have to say it the way I say it, and you don't. But if I do it like this, because English is not a phonetic language. Yeah, many languages are. Turkish is. Yeah, I'm guessing Bosnian is. Yeah, many, not all of them, but many languages are. But English isn't. I'm going to attempt to do this. And it's quite long, so it's got 2 stresses. Let's try that. That's. Say again? Yep, now then. Schizophrenia, yeah. Schizophrenia. So that's the sk. It's the schwas that get everybody, yeah? So schizophrenia. Alright. We've all been there as teachers, haven't we? I mean, this. Okay. Alright, so sometimes it's long words.
Yeah, it is.
And long words are difficult because they are long. Because they are long. Yes, is the correct answer. They're difficult because of the stress. Yeah? Alright, we're going to look at sentence stress, but word stress is really interesting because when you get to a long word, it's like, where do you put the stress? Now, lots of languages are stress timed. English is very stress timed. Turkish is somewhere in the middle. Slavic languages, I'm guessing Bosnia might come to this, are much more syllable timed. Yeah? So we use schizophrenia, and everything has the same kind of stress, yeah? Same weight. So it takes longer to say. But in English, we don't. We're lazy as all hell. We just worry about the stresses. Schizophrenia, schizophrenia, schizophrenia. So everything else gets squished in. And this is what people find very difficult. It's what I love about English. But it also, this is one of the major problems with comprehension, listening. It's like, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah, blah. Especially British English, when people like me talk really quickly, squash it all up. Great. You can say a lot in a short time, but you lose a lot of the information. Okay? So a lot of it is like, where do I put the stress? Once you've figured out where you put the stress, and then where you weaken stuff, the rest sort of falls into place. So visual aids I find are very useful, mostly because most people are quite visual. You can do it with clapping and standing up and all of this. I believe that I'm not, okay, and what have you, getting the rhythm. But sometimes they just need to see it phonetically. We're going to look at that in a second. Okay, any other words? Yes?
There's one word I remember when watching Mary Poppins.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yes, brilliant. And A and B is not even a real word, so you never need to learn it, but you said it perfectly. But if you notice all the stresses in it, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Everyone?
Docious.
Docious. I want to hear a big fat docious. 1, 2, 3. Docious. All right. What does it mean?
Good or wonderful?
Probably. We don't know, do we? I love that film. So everyone else seen Mary Poppins? Everyone knows that? No? What's wrong with you? Go and see Mary Poppins and Pronto tonight. It's probably on Netflix. All right. Okay. So everyone has problems. Now with your thought, this is individual sounds. As we saw earlier with the tree and 3, usually the context allows us to figure that out. Native speakers often have a problem with th. Some people can't say the ths. They go free, yeah? It's like ruh. Some people have problems with their ruhs. Okay? So it usually doesn't matter that much. It's usually the vowel sounds that change the meaning. But Saying th is quite easy if you've grown up saying it. If you haven't, if it's not in your language, then you've got to do something new with your tongue that you've never done before. And I've seen a number of teachers attempt to do it, and I've seen published materials attempt to do it, where you just go, you stick your tongue out and say the sound. Yeah, so let's say a word like think. So you stick your tongue out, no, then we stick the tongue out and say think. And that's what you get. You get a student just splattering your vocabulary. It's impossible. It's not what happens. You stick your tongue out, and then as you're pulling it back, you say the word. So stick your tongue out, pull it back, and breathe. As it's coming back, that's how you do it. And if you want to make it voiced, breathe like you smoked quite a few cigarettes and gone up a few steps. Okay, so it's about the tongue moving backwards. Yeah. That's all it is. And you can train your students to do it. But it's not a sound I've ever really worried about, because it's never really affected understanding. And some people do struggle with it, and you just end up with a wet face. And so is it worth it? I don't know. Okay? But you can teach the sounds. But I think vowel sounds are the better. You do a lovely sound, so I wouldn't worry. Now then, here's mine. Can you believe I have, I mean, I'm sure I've got loads of them, but this is the one I always struggle with. Now, I can say it, but I have to think about it. Oh, no, not that. No, I don't have any problem saying him. Let's talk about him first, though, because he's got quite a difficult name, hasn't he?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
There's lots of syllables in that. What's his name?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Very nice. That's 6. Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah? Okay, so it's quite difficult to pronounce. Benedict Cumberbatch. But it's quite easy because you've got two stresses, Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, so it's, it's quite interesting, because I think most English names are not difficult to pronounce, but loads of Brits have problems with this name. Alright, so there's that. I can say that, but I can't say this. Oh, I can say antibiotics. I can say antibiotics, but that's not the English pronunciation. That's the Turkish. Say again. Oh, you say it beautifully. Can you say it into my microphone?
Antibiotic.
Nice. Okay, I'm good. Antibiotics. I can say it slowly. Okay. Now, if you're saying it, if you're Turkish, or probably lots and lots of nationalities, you don't say antibiotics, you say antibiotics. Antibiotics is dead easy. However, if you're American, anyone speak American English? Yes?
Antibiotics.
Antibiotics. So I'm going to go for it. Say again?
Antibiotics.
Antibiotics. Now, we can see here that with the Turkish pronunciation, antibiotic, what we have is the same vowel sound twice, yeah? Antibiotic. We've got the E sound, antibiotic, yes? Yeah. With American English, we've got the I sound twice, antibiotic, yes? But in British English, we've got antibiotic, and I find it really hard to switch between the two of them. Antibiotic. I have to think about that word. Now, thankfully, living in Turkey is fine, because I can say, well, when you used to be able to buy them over the counter at the chemist, do you remember those days? Yeah? So you just go to the pharmacy and say, can I get some antibiotic? And they go, yes, there you go. Or if I was in America, I could say, can I have some antibiotics? And they go, yes. But when I'm in England and I ask for some antibiotic, they go, what's wrong with your English, Laura? But I find it really hard to say without thinking about. Now, I've never met another Brit that has this problem or will admit to it, but I'm guessing there might be a few. It's a word plus it's got a lot of syllables. It's a word I really struggle with. All right? So, everybody has words that are difficult to say. I know how to say it. I know how to spell it. I know how it sounds. That's not a problem. It's getting those sounds out of my mouth. But by analysing why I've got a problem, I can work on it. Or at least be aware that, okay, it's not just me, it's because of this. So if your students or you has a problem with a word, I just find this really difficult to say, try and analyse why. Look at the sounds that are in it. Is it the vowel sounds? Is it an unfamiliar vowel sound that you need to practice more? Is it jumping between vowel sounds? Is it consonant clusters? Is it the stress? Or is it the unfamiliar th, for example? Or moving, because th, you can teach th, and they've got it, but then you get them to use it in a sentence with lots of ths, or with another consonant afterwards, like thr. Then that's even harder, okay? So analysing why it's difficult is your first step to helping them, okay? Now then, Benedict Cumberbatch, let's go back to him, because I can say his name. What a great name. Do we like him?
Yes.
Yes. He's got a great voice.
Yeah.
He's a good actor.
Yes.
Do you think he speaks good English?
No. No, I don't.
He's got great English, lovely voice, Queen's English. He's quite posh, posher than me. Yeah, you'd listen to him talk all day. Do you think he has any problems with English? Yeah, he does. Do you want to hear about it? So if anybody knows, keep it quiet. But Benedict Cumberbatch has a problem with pronouncing English words. You know what it is, don't you? If you do know, keep it quiet. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 video clips, little bits of the same video, and let's see what it is. And we're going to use this to analyse what his problem is, why that happened or happens, and how we can help him. And can we help him? That's the other question we need to ask ourselves. All right, so you ready? There he is. Okay, this is from a chat show. Things work. Okay, there's no audio. Is my IT guy here? Oh, they took it plug out. They took it out. It was in. Now it's out. Where's it gone? Oh, it was also about. There should be a. Do you remember that audio thing? It was here, plugged into the other laptop, and someone's moved it. I'm terribly sorry. No. Is that it? Alright, let's take it out of there and put it straight in here. See if that works. Okay.
What is this about?
Can we have a bit louder? Can you turn the volume up a little bit?
Well, apparently I got it wrong repeatedly in a documentary. It wasn't a documentary about said animal. It was a documentary about, I think about South Pacific in general, and now I'm completely terrified of the word. I don't go near it.
But it was, I know, here's the thing. I thought, oh, sure they're making it up, but we actually looked at this documentary. The documentaries are called Strange Islands. The first one you sort of get away with, and then after that you lose all sense of what let's have a look, listen carefully.
And the last thing you might expect to see here is penguins. These are Fiordland crested penguins, named after this corner of South New Zealand. So why are these woodlands so attractive to penguins? A freshwater stream through the forest makes a handy highway for a parent penguin heading home.
What on earth are you talking about? What are they?
Penguins.
Penguins. We were going to say penguins, yes?
Penguins.
What does old Benedict call them? Penguins. And on one occasion, I think he says penguins. Penguins. Penguins. Now, what's going on? And he knows he's got a problem. Or he found out later, and they got him to narrate a documentary about these things, which is crazy. Why does he have a problem with that word? Does he not know how to pronounce it?
Maybe he has a phobia.
A phobia of the actual...
Yeah.
I think he's got a phobia of the word now, and that's what can happen. When we have trouble with a word, we don't want to say it, yeah? We want to not go, oh, I don't want to say that, I don't want to say that, it's too embarrassing. I'll find another way to say it. It's probably why English has got so many synonyms, because it's so bloody difficult to pronounce. We have to keep coming up with other words as alternatives, so everybody could communicate with each other. I made that up, that's not true, but... So, okay, so, I had a friend when I was in high school who had the same problem, and we all took the mickey out of her. She called them penguins, penguins, penguins. So why do you think he says penguins? He knows how it's spelled. He's very well educated. He speaks beautifully. Why does he say penguins?
It's easy to hear it.
Oh, I don't know. He says everything else, right? Yeah.
Maybe he heard it when he was a child wrongly and it stuck in his mind.
Yeah, or maybe he heard it correctly, but he couldn't quite say it then, and that stuck in his mind.
Yeah.
Now, anyone here teach very young learners, or have young children, or have had young children? Yeah? They can't always, in their native language, get those words right. Yeah? My brother, I remember this, and students have a problem with this too, the SPS in crisps. Crisps is difficult, and wasps. My brother had this problem when he was like 3-4 years old. He couldn't stop. He'd go crisps. So he could make the sound, but he just couldn't stop it. And lots of students say crips. They hear crisp, but it's just hard to say. So I think, and I don't know, I've not interviewed him, I haven't analysed him, but because I had a friend that had the same problem, I think he's heard it as a kid, either misheard it, or before he's seen it written. It's not a word you see written first as a native speaker child. You're going to hear it first, yeah? And he's either misheard it or couldn't quite pronounce that sound. So he said penguin. That is a very typical child pronunciation. Like, okay, so what our bodies are made of, and they're scary in horror films? The bits underneath. Skeleton. Skeleton. Skeleton? Yeah? Okay. But for kids, how do they say it? Skeletons. Because it's a false analogy. Skeleton, they put the ing in it. They're learning the grammar, they're learning the morphemes. Yeah, lots of kids call it a skeleton, because skeleton isn't very typically an English word. They're learning words and how they're made, typical sounds. So loads of little kids call them skeletons. And that, again, sticks with a few adults. It just sticks. And they're the hardest ones to get rid of. So I think old Benedict there got penguined when he was a kid and couldn't quite get rid of it. Can we help him? Should we see?
No, actually we can't.
Quite funny. Oh, did we move on? Yes. Okay. So let's see what he has to say about it, and let's see if he can get a bit better. All right, are we ready?
Yeah, what I love is, in the way that life is, how special that Benedict is now starring as a wolf in this film. So can you say it?
Well, I've had a word with Disney. I need to check that I have said it correctly. No, penguin.
Okay, that's why pronunciation, I can't say pronunciation now, is important, because it makes you really happy. So did he say it? Yes, he did. How did Graham help him? Did he help him? He was a bit of a teacher there, wasn't he? He separated it. Yeah, and showing him with his mouth. And focusing just on the difficult part, and almost a bit of back chaining. So he said,
lips ready.
Win, win. And he went, oh, penguin, a bit, but slowly, like me saying antibiotic, penguin, and he got it. So Graham's a great teacher, okay? He's a oh, I can't speak, because all this happens in pronunciation session. He's a chat show host, and he showed that he can teach Benedict. Okay, so do you think he's got it now? He's learned to say it, he knows how it's said, he said it. Is that the end of the story?
No.
No, of course it's not. Should we watch a little bit from that movie? What was the name of the movie?
Penguin.
Madagascar. Right? Okay. Let's see if he gets it right. In this, come on. There we go. There they are. Do we know this film?
Yeah.
Ready?
What the heck is going on?
Remain calm, penguins.
Yay!
Dedicated to helping animals who can't help themselves. Like penguins.
All right, tiny penguins. I'm going to save those hapless penguins.
No! This mission has no place for a pathetic, one-off, useless penguins.
You'd never leave a man behind. Well, I suppose we can't all be penguins, can we? This is difficult.
Isn't it? All right. So what do we think? Not really. So what does that tell us? He got it right once. He got it right once in the film.
Doesn't mean.
But
It doesn't mean it's going to be right all the time.
No. So we need to think about that when teaching pronunciation in class. They might get it right that once. Doesn't mean to say they'll always get it right. And if you're doing a very controlled drill, then they might get it right, but they might revert, especially as this is what I would probably classify as a fossilized error. And fossilized errors, as we know, are really difficult to get rid of. This whole thing went viral, and I don't think Benedict kind of minds so much because it makes him so adorable. I think he's just even more popular than ever now, you know. But you're probably quite sick of people saying, say this word. Not penguins. Okay, but we all have problems, and that's the key. So don't think that pronunciation is something that comes easy to people like me, or even people who are paid for their voice. He's paid for his voice, you know. He still has problems with it. That's something you can share with your students. So for you as teachers, non-native teachers of English, speaking English and pronouncing English, that should make you feel a little bit more comfortable that we're none of us perfect and we still make mistakes. And something you can share with your students. Doesn't have to be perfect all the time. Look at Benedict Cumberbatch. Ha ha ha. Can you all say penguins? Yes, you can. So confidence is key. Confidence is key. Is very key in speaking, but very, very key in pronunciation as well. All right. So let's move on to the next one, which was difficult to say or don't know how to say it. Okay. Now this is where the spelling thing comes in. Don't know how to say it. Well, you know what? It's not your fault. So let yourself off the hook. Lots of people, I don't know how to say this yet. Not your fault. It's stupid English's fault for having those stupid spellings and all those weird sounds. Yeah? So take it easy, and I'll do my best to help you. I might not get it right. So this is something. What's that? She's clearly struggling with a word here. Yeah. Now, again. Okay. There are loads of videos. Again, remember I talked about the difference between British and American English. There are loads and loads of videos on YouTube where you've got a Brit trying to get an American to say place names in the UK. Yeah? And they can't do it. And ha ha, we have a laugh at those silly Americans. But they get their own back because they get the roti car, and I can't do that. So if I try and say car in American English, I sound Irish for a start. I can't say car. I can't say car. Car. I sound like a pirate. So, you know, they get their own back. So both have got their difficulties. Okay, what she's trying to say here is Worcestershire. You never ever need to use this word unless you move there or you like the sauce. But Worcestershire. What? Yes, Worcestershire. Worcestershire. Let me write it on the board. Now, yeah, spelling. Spelling. Here we go. Brilliant. Now you can understand when you look at how the word's written. And this is by no means the trickiest, evilest little place name in the UK. There are much worse ones. You would be forgiven for thinking, oh, is that a ka or a sa or maybe a cha? And the Worcestershire and the Shire. So is it Worcestershire, which is what a lot of Americans want to say it as? Is it Worcestershire or Worcester? Who knows? But it's actually
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire. There you go. So as northern as I can. If you're American, you can put the little roti car in. Feel free. Or if you're Irish or Scottish, Worcestershire. I can't say Worcestershire. Worcestershire. Yeah. Feel free. And I think for a lot of non-native speakers of English, putting that little R in there, American style, is easier because you have those R's. It's just British English, British English that doesn't have it. So Worcestershire. Try 1, 2, 3. Worcestershire. Beautiful. That's the only drilling I'm doing today. So you did a great job. Okay. So again, there are loads of words I don't know how to say. Or not so many anymore, but there certainly were when I was growing up. here's my list from when I was young and youngish, that I didn't know how to say. Why did I not know how to say these words?
Berry.
Berry. How would you know that was berry? You'd have to hear it, right? This one? Eccentric. Courtesy. And nemesis. All right, now I know how to say these words now. I still struggle with these two when I read them. Why did I not know how to say them? Well, because I first encountered these words in a text, in a reading text, before I'd heard them. Actually, not true with this one, but I didn't make the connection. Yeah? So I'd heard the word berry, buried treasure, or what have you. But then I read the word buri, and I didn't connect that it was the same thing. So that got fossilized in my brain. However, because I've heard the word, I know when I'm talking, I say berry. But when I read it, my brain voice says buri. It can't help it, it got fossilized in there. The same thing with courtesy. Because courtesy. So the same thing happened. Now, I definitely saw that written before I ever heard it. So again, when I see this word written, my brain voice says courtesy. But when I'm speaking, I say courtesy, courteous. Same with this one, nemesis. I always thought the stress was here, like banana, because that's more common. Nemesis. My brother corrected me and said, Laura, it's nemesis. I was like, oh, okay. I don't have a problem with that word anymore. But I did. This one is very important to me because this word, or how I got around this word, helped me to get top points in my reading test in year, I don't know what it was, but I was 11, okay? Our reading tests used to be, look at this list of words and say them. It was the spelling pronunciation tests. Now, my surname begins with M. That meant I was kind of towards the second half of the class. So we were all set a writing task, while each student, one by one, went up to the teacher and read these words out, starting with simple words, moving to more complicated words, sometimes words we'd never heard before, didn't know the meanings of. Now, I'd seen this word written, but never heard it. And I heard, well, quite a lot of, once you kind of really struggled, the teacher would stop you. So this was quite late in the list. But there was another girl, she was my rival. She was the other best reader in the class, and I wanted to beat her, right? I really wanted to beat her. But her name started with, I think it was M as well, but M-A something. So she went up first, and I was like, I'm going to listen and see how she says it. And she struggled. She tried it two ways. She said, eccentric, eccentric. And I'm like, God, I just don't know. So I thought, you know what I've got time to do? What did I do? I went to I couldn't Google it. I went to Dictionary Corner because we were encouraged to use dictionaries. I went, opened my dictionary, and read this. Now, I hadn't learned phonemes, but it didn't matter. I saw that, and I went, okay, I know how to say it. Guess who got top points in the reading test? Laura with eccentric. And I never forgot it, so it's really important to me. So I had to cheat. I had to look it up. I didn't know. It doesn't come naturally to all of us, okay? So when you don't know how to say it, cheat. Cheat! Yeah! Yeah, baby, you cheat. It's not cheating, it's research. And it's learner-centered. It's learner-centered, it's active learning. All right? That's not cheating. I got lucky that I wasn't the first up because I probably would have hedged my bets and said eccentric. I might have. I don't know. But anyway, don't care. So. All right, so cheating is fine, I think is what I wanted to say there. All right, so the thing is as well, you know, there probably are still some words I'm getting wrong. There probably are. Who knows? Words that I've seen written but never heard spoken. Happens to all of us. How many words are there out there in English? Loads and loads and loads. Yes, is the right answer. I can't know anymore. So who knows? I might have said some words wrong in this session. You never know. It's all right. So, that's easy for just based on that. These are typical words that I've had issues with students of mine I've had issues with over the years. It doesn't matter where they come from. Okay? These are my, just off the top of my head, there's no data, there's no research, it's what I could remember. Let's think about why they have a problem and how we can quickly correct it. And will drilling help? Maybe, maybe not. Now, these words your students have had problems with, or maybe you in the past as a language learner might have had problems with. Yeah? Let's look at what the issues are. The problem here is manifold. It's the th, but that O-U-G-H, which could be any sound, could be anything at all. Yeah? It could be up, it could be off, it could be O, it could be O, it could be up, like borough. Yeah? It could be anything, who knows? It's a guess. So when students look at this word, they panic. Even though they know the word, it's a very common word, think, thought, thought. And they're saying it, but then they see it. The eyes get in the way of their mouth, and they go, toch, toch, toch. I've got to try it, toch. And I'm like, think, and they go, toch, toch. And they're like, yeah. And then you go, can I say it? Toch. No. Okay, so how can we help them with this one? It's not easy, thought. Thought. They go, oh, really? Easy word to say. It's just a horrible spelling. But actually, apart from the th, it's quite easy, thought. And if they say taught, I taught that, and it's fine. This one, how do students say it? Mosque, Mosque. Yeah, how can we help them with it? That's dead easy to say, yeah, yeah. And actually this is quite nice, not always true, but mostly you just don't say that. Unique, yeah, for example, plaque.
French.
French. It's French, yeah, it's a French influence, so we don't say it. But they say, oh, Mosque. Oh, it's Mosque, so I thought it was from Mosque. Okay, Mosque. That's easy to say, right? This one? Answer. Well, what do your students say? Answer. How can you help them? Ignore that letter. Now say it. That's when I'll drill again. This is when I'll drill. Answer. Okay. Take it away. Who's being posh and saying answer? You speak more like Benedict Cumberbatch. That's a southern, it's much nicer English than mine. I'm very northern with my flat vowels. Answer or answer. And yeah, just go, I ignore that. Alright, easy to say. Answer. Answer, dead easy. This one?
Vegetable.
Vegetable. How do your students say it? Vegetable or vegetable. So what do you do? You say, just call it veg. Fruit and veg. Or cross it out. Vegetable. Forget that it's a table, you might cross that out. I usually just change that to the schwa. This one, fruit. How do your students say it? Fruit, fruit. Oh, bless. They do it, they can't help it because they want it. But you and I together never make ooey. We make lots of different sounds, but not ooey. Fruit. You and I together, here. You and I together make ooh. Fruit. Fruit. That's easy. Fruit. Yeah. I might do that, or I might spell it Turkish. F-R-U-T. Fruit. Yeah. All right. And the same with here. What do we say? Biscuit. But our students say biscuit. And it's not Turkish students. It's students all over the world, and you cannot blame them. It's not their fault. It's a stupid spelling. So let's just say it like this. Biscuit. Yes. Comfortable. Same thing with veg. I actually thought, shall I do vegetable or comfortable? And I was going to do comfortable, but I thought I've got the fruit in there. So it's the same thing, comfortable. But again, we're really lazy in the UK. We like to make things short. So we don't say vegetable, we say veg. We don't say comfortable, we say, ooh, comfy. Comfy. Isn't that nice? Yeah. Words are too long, we don't like big long words. In fact, we don't even say biscuit. Do you know what we say for biscuit? Vicky! Vicky! Yeah. Oh, chocky Vicky. Chocky Vickies. What's a chocky Vicky? A chocolate biscuit. Chocky Vicky! Alright. Oh, I didn't have much lunch. Alright, so sometimes helping them, if it's easy to say, but they don't know how to say it, it's easy to help them. Alright? Easier than with a difficult word to say. So, what we're going to do, we're going to put these together. How much time have we got? How much time have we got? Yeah, we're going to keep going for 5 minutes. Is that all right? Yes, of course it is. Right. Right. So, how to integrate now? So far we've looked at this. This is still form focused and teacher led. We're going to now make it a little bit more student focused and content led, and look at how we can bring in other things. So we've got our vowel sounds. We're going to look at stress and weak forms, sentence stress and rhythm and rhyme. All right. Now this is great if you teach primary, but I would use this for the adults. In fact, I'm going to. Who's he? Humpty Dumpty. Where is he? We know this, yeah? What's the first line? There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Very nice. Now, if we look here, there's a lot going on here. We've got our rhythm and rhymes it. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. How many beats? 4 beats. So that's great for looking at our weak forms here and our rhythm. But it's also really good for those sounds schwa, and o. So these sounds are quite difficult. Especially. O. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. But we're combining it. We're not just going, look, make this sound We just sound like we're all like, I don't know what we're doing. Making noises. That's fun. As part of this, but it's got meaning here. There's content, there's meaning. And we can look at the rhythm and stress. What's the next line? Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. How many sounds? Beats? 4. 4 beats are great. 4 beats are brilliant. I use poetry a lot when I'm doing pronunciation. Nice simple rhymes that everyone's comfortable with. Let's look at our beats. Humpty. And the rhythm's the same. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Yeah, that's stress timing. Do you remember? We talked about stress timing. Is it iambic pentameter? Probably. Don't ask me difficult questions. It's close to it. All right. And the same thing here. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Now, great is a content word, but the stress doesn't fall on it. The stress falls here. So we can rhyme. We've got rhyme. Wall and fall. Rhymes are great, especially with that spell. Now, here they're spelled the same way, but they're not always. So we're combining lots of stuff here. Okay. So, looking at this, you can drill it a little bit. You get them thinking about the weak forms, doing the beats. Humpty Dumpty for visual learners. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. La la la. This is where I would drill it, but it's a poem. It's a rhyme. It's okay to drill it because it's got meaning and it's fun to say. We haven't got time to do that. But still very teacher-led. How can I make it more autonomous? How can I get that active learning, creative thinking, critical thinking, creativity? Well, and also how can I take a bit of a break and sit down and make you do the work? Let's put Humpty Dumpty somewhere else. Doesn't have to sit on the wall. He's been sitting on that wall for about 100 years. He's a bit bored, keeps falling off. Maybe we put him somewhere where he's not going to fall off. All right? So I'd get you thinking about making your own rhyme. To begin with, I'd probably start by saying, look, I'm going to help you. I'll give you some ideas. All right, you give me the first line of this poem. Humpty Dumpty. Very good. Now we have to rhyme it. What's our next line? I'll give you a clue to help you, but you might think of something else, but just to help guide you. Okay, so let's think of it. Humpty Dumpty sat on a chair. Humpty Dumpty had a grey hair.
No, doesn't
have hair. Hey! Humpty Dumpty doesn't have hair. Humpty Dumpty sat on a chair. Humpty Dumpty doesn't have hair. Fantastic. You got the rhythm, you got the stress, you got the rhyme. And you made it. I've helped you a little bit. Help you a little bit here. You know, you can help your students. Humpty Dumpty sat on a tree, in a tree, I don't know. On a tree. On a tree. Okay.
Got stung by a bee.
Okay. Humpty Dumpty sat on a tree. Humpty Dumpty stung by a bee. Okay, we've got to put a few more syllables in there and keep it saying, got stung by a bee. So now we've got to really think about that stress and shorten everything, but it works. Humpty Dumpty sat on a tree. Humpty Dumpty got stung by a bee. Stung bee. Got stung by a bee. Humpty Dumpty sat in a tree. Humpty Dumpty got... Okay, all right, so we're packing more sounds in there. And again, it's come from you with my guidance. Now, we don't have time for this, but the next step is I'm going to take a step back, but provide visual, remember visual is very important, guidance, and I'd ask the students to pick one of the pictures and make a rhyme. Okay, and I might check that they know the vocabulary. This is in or on. In. On the moon. In a plane. In the sea. Okay, and quite easy rhymes, all right? So that's your homework. Come up with a Humpty Dumpty rhyme for me. Or, it doesn't have to be Humpty Dumpty once you've done this. You can play around with it. Remember we said about adding more syllables? Got stung by a bee. Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty. Try this one. Go on then. Say it again, nice and loud. Isn't that brilliant? You got it. Benedict Cumberbatch sat in the chair. What's next? Played with his hair.
Yeah.
Got lovely hair. Could be anything. Might not be hair. So what you want to do is next. So we've crammed more syllables into that. From Humpty Dumpty to Benedict Cumberbatch. We've still got the rhythm. And then you can just visuals. But Benedict Cumberbatch sat on a cloud. Or Benedict Cumberbatch got stung by a bee. I can't. Is there a rhyme for penguin? There isn't a rhyme for penguin, or even penguin. So if you could find a way to get Cumberbatch and penguins into the same poem, I'll give you a prize. All right? And that can be your homework. You can even put him under this. There's a lot, I mean, whatever, just visuals. Thinking about short nouns with one syllable that have lots of rhymes. Just give your students pictures, let them play with it. Okay? So they've gone from, I don't know how to say this, to, oh, I can say it, or to, I can create my own with the same awareness of sounds. Getting them to make the connection between sounds that rhyme. Starting to guide them, chair, and, oh, hair, oh, they rhyme, that works. To getting them to now think about...
No, don't. I got it. So look, let me know. Keep in touch with you. Facebook, email. I want to come back and I will come back. Okay. Bye.
The Okulları organization is founded in 1990s, and it came until this day, and it's in 136 countries. So it's spread through Finland, America, Turkey, right here, and many other countries. Yeah, so this is the short history of IB program. With the IB program, it is different than our national curriculum in Turkey. Besides the normal lessons you get, like math, physics, you can also choose other topics that are not normally in the curriculum, like psychology, business management, and other stuff. And besides that, you also have to have CAS projects, which means creativity and academic service. You have to complete 180 hours of creativity and academic service to be able to graduate in this. And these courses you have to come out of your shell and talk to people, and that makes you prepared for the real world more than normal curriculum, because it forces you to go out and you see what people are doing with what they need. So can we say that we are in the work rate? Oh, yes. So when you finish the IB, and that's the best thing, because the thing is, IB not touching the country, but you actually, like, they raise awareness about global issues, and you know them all. So when you go abroad, for example, you don't feel like you're an outsider.
Affedersiniz. Okullarında araçlar var mıdır acaba? 27 EC 365 plaka.
Hazır.
Is actually, as you can see, and I will give a personal experience. Well, I really really like to take risks because I always believe that they can end up bad. But with this program, the IB program, I actually learned.
Not participating. So I thought maybe I should make them closer and more active. And I designed some vocabularies.
Sport is actually research too, and you can implement them during your lesson hours. And none of the student was left behind. The important thing, everybody did something. But about weaker students also that okay, we can do something at least. So they feel possible and they truly do. That's why. Thanks for coming.
I realized that this one was enthusiastic about playing games. Their motivation was really low when we started. When I started and then on the 1st of December, I started every start
portfolio assessment tool in ELT. I get some more information about it.
Yeah, the games first. The games were
okay.
Our subjects.
When we first started the process, students actually used to try to portfolio was really harsh. They didn't want to attend it, right? Lots of stuff to learn, blah blah.
The daily routines, they wrote their sentences that the teachers. How many weeks did you implement? That makes 8 weeks.
Yes, we do the first step and then we read
Good. So we have a few methodology books and an Oxford. Yes. Yeah. You are on social media, Laura. Laura, come on, darling. Right here. And she will pick the first number. Yeah. All right. You've got two. Okay, just one. Is it number?
91.
It's 91. Let's show it to the audience.
91.
Anyone having 91 or? No, 91. No, okay. Another one. 91 is gone. Yeah.
105. 105. Yes! We have a winner! No way!
Okay, come over. Right?
Really?
Actually, my parents were
Okay. So it's a Cambridge Learners Dictionary. Congratulations, sir. All right. Nik, would you do us the honor? Let's pick like 2 or 3 numbers. Yeah. Okay. Let's see the first one.
51.
Oh,
What about 52?
All right. Can we see the number? Yeah. Okay. It's on the back. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah? Yeah? All right. Congratulations. No, four. Four. Oh, come on, guys. There is no four. Impossible. She's not here. He's not here. Okay, another one.
Sorry for that.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, wow. This is yours. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. And now we'll pick like randomly. For instance, Ömer, would you take a number? We will have more. Yeah. No, just one. Yeah.
95.
95. 95. Okay, great. All right. Come over here.
Çok arkaya oturmayayım, nasıl olsa diye çıkacak.
Congratulations. Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Zeynep.
20. 20.
Oh, great, great. All right. All right. All right. Chris is here. Yeah, why don't you pick up?
Okay.
Yeah? You're rested.
Yeah, I'm rested.
Yeah.
Just one? Goju Janai.
Oh,
Can I say this in Turkish?
Of course.
Use on 110. German black. Sir John.
All right. Sir John. Yeah, why not? That's not bad.
151.
Let's show it.
151.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 70. Get used to the atmosphere. Okay, later. Okay, Ipek. Let's see which one you picked. Oh, 84. Let's show it. 84. No? 84? Yeah. Oh, Connie.
Nice one, 88. 88.
You're doing well.
See if I'm still lucky.
Yeah. All right. Why did you pick it?
114. 114.
Oh, wow.
I want to know why
Yeah, and just turn, please.
I need a picture of turn.
Oh,
pick
me
up.
Yeah, your paper went first, by the way. Everybody pick you. Good job.
But we do have like this type of t-shirts with Sam's and Laura's.
Yeah.
I need a photo after.
Yeah. Absolutely. Definitely. Hello. Yeah. Okay.
We actually had one more friend. She loved to be here, but she got sick. I'm sorry. She Edith wanted to be here too, but she got sick, which is very bad. She put a lot of things on this conference, but you know, what can you do sometimes?
This is great motivation. You're very welcome. Okay. All right. Let's go around and around. This one, why don't you pick a number? 15. Okay. And you can give them Thank you. Yes, sir. No.
75.
Could we have a 75? 75? No? Okay, 75 for the last time. No, okay, great. Another one.
112. 112.
No one? 112. No. Okay. No, all right. 67. 67. Yeah. Great. We have a few left. All right. What do you have?
190. Maximum.
İnşallah daha nice Let me. Yeah. 66 or 99. 66. Yeah, please come. Yeah. Traditional folk songs. I think that's
Good for you, mate.
Yeah. All right. Another one. 193. 193. No? No? Sure? Okay. 57. 57. Yeah? All right. Oh, come on. You picked up all the numbers. Yeah? three left, and the online professional development, I will leave it the last. Okay? If that is okay with you. Okay? Okay. Good. Nik, do us the honor.
$14. 14.
14. Yeah, great. Thank you. Great. Great. All right. And, well, not great. Sam.
Why is he unlucky?
Oh, well, I don't know. Yeah, the online courses. Yeah.
120. 120.
120. Twice. 120. Thrice. Ah, sorry. Okay. Yeah, absolutely fair. Yeah.
116.
Hey! See it again? Sam, what? That's suspicious. That's suspicious.
Congratulations, you're so lucky. Not only that you presented your poster, but you won. Yeah.
Can I get a picture with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Please. All right. And the last book. The last. Who wants to pick the number for the last one? Okay, please. Yeah, come over, please. Thank you, you're so great, sir. Thank you. Yeah, do you want to put your own number in the top? Oh my God. I'm just kidding. No. He was just so excited. I'm just kidding. You should have looked at the numbers. Have you looked at the numbers? No. Okay, close your eyes. Okay, right. Pick a number. One. Just one. One. Come on. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
107.
107. Oh! You're very welcome. And now, for the online professional development provided by Oxford University Press, we have the honor to invite Chris Shin to the stage. That's cheating. You looked at it.
I didn't look at it.
No, I'm just kidding. Of course you didn't.
Yeah. I have two though. What do I choose?
I don't know. Close your eyes and leave one.
I went left. Oh, 80. 80.
No one.
Once. Twice. No. Okay.
Okay.
Wait. Are you 80? 80? Oh, don't give up yet.
Yeah.
Never give up, right?
Yeah, never give up. Right.
Well done. You got a match.
So this is a wonderful, please. Yeah, please. All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming up today. I hope you enjoyed the plenaries, workshops, and the poster presentations. And some of you won a few books. Thank you very much. Have a lovely Saturday and a lovely weekend. See you next year.